With what looked like a completely ordinary swing of the bat, the young man left all the powerful warriors in Lego utterly stunned. No one expected that strike could directly smash a high-level demonic beast to pieces right before everyone's eyes. They were all astonished, but what they didn't know was that a special power had awakened within his body. It was called bat power, a strength that could be channeled into any bat. It transformed the baseball bat in his hand into a weapon capable of wiping out any enemy. However, at this moment, what he cared about most wasn't fighting, but the high school baseball championship final, happening today early in the morning. The old monk at home had woken up to cheer him on, but he didn't forget to add a threat. If he lost, he'd have to shave his head and become a monk, just like him. Right as he was about to leave the house, a tired, peaceful voice called out from behind him. Brushing her teeth, she called for him to wait, then mysteriously took out a small gift. It was a rather strange-looking green monster doll. Even though he had no idea what kind of creature it was, he could still feel her sincere support and encouragement. Looking at the gift, he became even more determined to win the match. No matter what, when the final match began, the atmosphere in the stadium immediately grew, as tense as a drawn bowstring. Both sides fought fiercely until the decisive moment. Standing at the batter's box, he focused intently, his eyes locked on the approaching ball. The opposing pitcher also poured all his spirit into this final, all-or-nothing pitch. And then the moment the ball came flying, he tightened his grip on the bat, gathered all his strength and swung hard. A sharp crack echoed, as the ball immediately soared high into the air. Amidst the explosive cheers of the audience, the entire stadium erupted. He had won, and with the result of today's game, Sangdan High has defeated Guangdong High to claim the championship title. We have also prepared an exclusive interview with Kim Jong. Please don't take your eyes off the screen. The sun had set. Zhang walked home with heavy steps. Since I won the high school championship, I'll probably get good results in the upcoming military draft, right? He then thought, or maybe I should buy some rice cakes on the way home. That idea was immediately dismissed. But the master monk is getting old. I wonder if it's okay for him to eat rice cakes. Wait a minute, I won after all. They should at least buy me some chicken, shouldn't they? Suddenly, a hand came out of nowhere and smacked him on the head. Kim Yena questioned, you walk as slow as a snail. What were you so lost in thought about? Pissed off from being hit, Zhang threatened, you little brat. Get your head over here now. She stuck her tongue out to taunt him. Hit me if you dare, I'll go tell the master monk on you. Taking the chance, he shot back. So have you even washed your hair yet? Kim Yena roared, are you kidding me? Of course I have. After bickering for a while, they walked home together. As they walked, Kim Yena recounted the day's events. They showed the baseball game during class today. When you hit that home run, the whole school was screaming so loud. We even got a noise complaint hearing that. He gloated, of course. An unrivaled genius has just appeared in Korea. After all, a small smirk appeared on her face. Yeah, right. It was all thanks to the lucky charm I gave you. Kim Jang said, right, it was all thanks to the charm. She retorted, just you try not bringing me anything next time. Seeing this, he quickly changed the subject. I'm starving, let's hurry home and eat. Since I won the game today, you'll be the one washing the dishes, right? Kim Yena immediately looked unconvinced. What the hell does washing dishes have to do with the game? As soon as they arrived, Zhang quickly ran to open the temple door. I'm home. What greeted his eyes was the sight of the master monk, sprawled on the floor, and there was a stranger inside with him. He had been on the ground for who knows how long while that guy just sat there. After climbing the last few steps, Kim Yena grumbled, what are you doing? Why haven't you gone inside yet? The moment she saw the scene before her, her pupils dilated, her voice caught in her throat. Master Monk Jiang was also scared out of his wits. The hooded man hurriedly explained, Master Monk, this has nothing to do with me. His eyes suddenly widened. Enraged, Jiang swung his bat and attacked fiercely. Luckily, the mysterious person managed to dodge the attack. He screamed at the top of his lungs, Yena, run. Kim Yena herself was still in shock, but she couldn't bear it. But what about you? Jang's face remained resolute. Hurry up, her eyes were already filled with tears. They were about to fall like a broken string of pearls. After a moment of internal struggle, Kim Yena decisively ran away. Right now there was only one question in his mind. Who is this? What is their purpose for coming to the temple? Zhang himself couldn't understand what had happened to the master monk. Deep down he could only hope he's not dead. Right. I have to focus on what I need to do right now, he told himself. First, I have to take this guy down. The good news was, thank God, it looks like he doesn't have a weapon. The mysterious person's voice rang out deep and low. Damn it, you speak up. I want to explain everything, but I'm running out of time. John's face was tense as the mysterious man lowered his head. I'm truly sorry for how everything turned out. John's eyes followed blankly. Suddenly the man vanished with lightning speed, then lunged forward and pressed his hand firmly against John's chest. John's entire body began to emit a strange, sparkling light. The mysterious man told Kim John, "Find Anea." John's face wrinkled in surprise. A face exactly like mine. A golden light filled the space before it suddenly cracked and shattered like sharp glass. John's entire body plummeted downwards in a free fall. What is the ground collapsing? What was more frustrating was that he knew he couldn't speak. It was just his consciousness. Damn it, if only I wasn't here. Kim Yena, Master Jin's eyes were still wide with shock. As he fell, his eyes landed on a terrifying white skeleton. Baring its teeth, Jin's ear-splitting scream echoed. As he lost his composure and backed away, a skeleton right here in front of him. Why is this thing here, and more importantly, where am I? I've definitely fallen into a very strange place. At that moment, his hands were groping at everything around him. John then discovered a shiny golden orb. His face went pale as he stammered, "What is this?" Suddenly the golden orb began to crack open. A claw pierced through the outer shell and emerged. They seemed to have awakened and were trying to get out. Terrifyingly, it wasn't just one. Many more like it were now surrounding John. He couldn't believe what the hell was happening, the words catching in his throat. Suddenly a demon spider leaped up, launching itself onto Kim John's arm. Its needle-like spine sank into his flesh, and the sharp pain made John scream in agony. He forcefully flung it away. John looked at his rapidly swelling arm and thought, "My arm feels like it's on fire." He struggled to his feet and looked at them. What the hell are these damn bugs? Suddenly his gaze fell on a spot on the ground. "My staff, did it fall with me?" Without hesitation, he lunged for the staff and gripped it tightly. John swung it hard at them. After the blow he grew even more tense. "Damn it, I can't handle all of these at once." John watched the demon spiders, swarming all over the place, and thought with determination, "First I have to get out of here." Sweat streamed down his tense face. John gritted his teeth and ran for his life. As he ran he scanned the surroundings. What the hell kind of place am I in? The more John ran, the worse the situation looked. He glanced around frantically. "I need to find somewhere to hide now." Meanwhile the demon spiders picked up speed, pursuing him relentlessly from behind. John suddenly stopped it in his tracks, a look of bewilderment on his face. The immense sight before him made him wonder in awe. A giant cave just then. The sound of scuttling echoed from behind. He snapped out of his daze, and turned to see the army of them at his back. He made up his mind, and decisively leaped into the water. "Screw it," he yelled as his body was enveloped by the lake's water. He quickly resurfaced. The horde of demon spiders started to follow, but stopped abruptly at the edge. Watching them, John thought to himself, "Good. It looks like they can't get in the water." Just then a sharp pain suddenly shot through him, making his eyes narrow in the water. Strange creatures had latched onto his leg, and were sucking his blood. He immediately scrambled onto land and kicked them off. John stared at the pitch-black monsters, and screamed in his mind, "Leeches." His breathing grew ragged and heavy, as he silently cursed, "Damn it, why is every damn place full of monsters?" Jean tried to catch his breath, as he pushed himself up to look around. "What the hell kind of place is this anyway? I spent my whole life just playing baseball. I've never seen or heard of anything like this." As he was lost in thought, his hand brushed against something. "Am I even in the same world I used to live in?" John instinctively pulled his hand back, and turned to look. He picked up the doll, muttering, "Why is this here? When did this get in my bag?" John's eyes darkened. He lamented mournfully, "Some good luck charm. This is an image of Kim Yenna came to his mind, and he softly called her name in his heart, Yenna. He then thought of the master, a worried thought crossing his mind. I wonder if master is safe. As he thought, this rage welled up inside him. If that bastard dares to touch them. He took a sharp, deep breath. Then Jean tried to reassure himself in his head. No. Stop thinking such negative thoughts. Panicking won't solve anything. He clenched his fists, his gaze hardening as he thought. Get a grip, Kim. John, taking action is the #1 priority right now. Leaning on his staff, John slowly got to his feet. There has to be a way. Just as he regained his confidence, he thought, first, I need to survey the area. A dripping sound echoed in Kim Jong's ear. He lifted his head toward the source of the noise. The moment he saw what was behind him, John's face instantly went pale. He hastily scrambled to dodge the monster's attack. Stunned, John stared in terror at the colossal monster before him. What now? John clenched his fists, thinking, I have to run. Then his eyes suddenly lit up when he spotted something. John stared intently at a crevice in the distance, instinctively thinking, over there. Without a moment's hesitation, he bolted towards it. Seeing this, the giant spider monster roared. Zhang sprinted with all his might, his eyes fixed on the crevice. Just as its sharp claw was about to strike him, Zhang managed to slip into the crevice just in time. A look of terror still lingered in his eyes. As he glanced back, that monster kept screaming, trying to force its way in. The sharp claw lunged straight for Kim Jong. He scrambled backward, causing it to miss. Stunned, Jiang watched the scene before him, his whole body trembling uncontrollably. He could feel its breath right on him. But then the monster suddenly turned and walked away. Jiang's face was pale as he watched it retreat into the distance. Unable to believe it, he thought, did they just give up and here? I thought I was a goner. Zhang's gaze fell to his hand, and he cried out internally in horror. Only then did he remember, thinking, is it because of those bugs from earlier? Why can't I feel my hand anymore? Jiang furrowed his brow, grimacing as he cursed to himself. Damn it, this is just awful. My life was already hanging by a thread, and now my arm is in this state. He got up and cautiously scanned his surroundings. I can't just hide here forever. John bent down and picked up the baseball bat. I have to find a way out no matter what. Suddenly something appeared in his field of vision. That's when Jiang noticed a beam of light. He stared in amazement at what appeared on the ground. A human silhouette. Jiang couldn't help but shout joyfully, over here, as he rushed towards it. There's someone here. Zhang's face lit up with immense joy. Thank goodness. I thought I was the only one in this place. But what appeared before him made the words catch in his throat. Zhang froze as if plunged into an icy abyss. Kim Jong eagerly leads the way forward this way. Suddenly his voice became excited. There's someone here. Kim Jong peeked in and sighed with relief. Thank goodness. I thought I was the only one in this god-forsaken place. But the sight before him shattered his hopes, leaving him frozen in place. This shock seemed to be more than Kim Jong could bear. His jaw dropped. The thing that met his eyes wasn't a person. It was a zombie. It opened its gaping maw and charged at him like a maniac. Luckily, Kim Jong was quick enough to dodge, but his spirit was completely crushed. Another monster. Kim Jong's eyes also noticed another peculiar detail. The bug that had bitten his hand. Could it be a parasite? His hand tightened around the wooden bat. Whatever it is, enraged, Kim Jong gathered all his strength and swung with all his might. I just need to smash it and it'll all be over. But reality shattered his hopes. The wooden bat shattered in his hands, but the zombie was completely unfazed. Noticing the attack, it slowly turned its head and suddenly sank its teeth hard into his shoulder. Kim Jong gritted his teeth, enduring the searing pain shooting through his shoulder. Even though Kim Jong tried with all his might, this zombie's grip was just too damn strong. After a long struggle, he finally managed to push it away. The zombie staggered and fell back, but it refused to give up. Lunging forward again like a speeding bullet, Kim Jong hastily used his arms to block the attack. It seized the opportunity to take another souvenir bite out of his arm. Its sharp teeth sank deep into his flesh. Though it was excruciating, he clenched his jaw and endured. Kim Jong's hands fumbled behind him, searching for anything. Just then, his fingers closed around a rock. Without a second thought, Kim Jong immediately grabbed the rock and brought it down on the zombie's head. In a fatal blow, the blow was strong, enough to send it sprawling to the ground. Seizing the opportunity while it was down, Kim Jong rained a series of thunderous blows upon it. His eyes blazed with absolute fury. Each sickening crunch echoed, the next blow always harder than the last. After a fierce struggle, it seemed the zombie was finally dead. Kim Jong's whole body went limp with exhaustion. But as he rested from a distance, a pair of eyes had been intently watching his every move. Kim Jong slowly lifted his gaze. Before him was a whole swarm of zombies. Shuffling forward, they began to charge, ready to attack. A bitter smile touched the corner of Kim Jong's lips. Of course, he said nonchalantly, "Let's see how this ends." As soon as the words left his mouth, Kim Jong shot up. He sprinted full speed towards the horde to fight back. The moment he met the first one, he unleashed a merciless flurry of attacks. Relying on their numbers, one of them launched a sneak attack on his leg. The sudden pain made Kim Jong realize what happened. Enraged, he drove his elbow down onto the top of its head. As soon as he dealt with that one, another threat demanded his attention. A different zombie charged at him frantically. Its hollow eyes rolled back as if to intimidate him. But that didn't make him flinch. Kim Jong immediately wrestled it to the ground. To control the fight in the midst of the fierce battle, a voice suddenly rang out. How interesting! Kim Jong's eyes widened in surprise. Upon hearing that voice, he quickly looked around, searching for the source of the sound. A doll nodded in praise. Very interesting. This sight left Kim Jong frozen solid. A doll. Countless questions raced through his mind. Did that doll just talk? Am I losing my mind? Kim Jong's voice faltered as he asked, "What are you?" It calmly replied, "Does that really matter now? You're on the verge of death, and you shall live." The doll's insistence left him stunned. "What do you mean?" The doll stressed once more. "Take hold of me." The zombies were still relentlessly chasing Kim Jong, their hideous hands reaching for him. In the distance, a brilliant light shone, and Kim Jong, with all his might, grabbed for it. A strong gust of wind began to rise, blowing away the zombies that were closing in on his shoulders. A hazy, green smoke still swirled thickly around the area. A flicker of bewildered uncertainty crossed Kim Jong's eyes. His hand was still clenched tightly. That green smoke transformed in an unpredictable way that completely shocked him. A baseball bat. He stared at the bat. He trembled with anger. It's not even a real weapon. Just an ordinary baseball bat. What the hell? After being pushed back, the zombies furiously charged forward again, ready to die. Kim Jong's expression completely changed. He swung the baseball bat with all his strength. The next scene left Kim Jong completely dumbfounded. With just one swing, it fell to the ground, knocked out cold. This immense power made Kim Jong a bit suspicious. "I can feel some kind of power welling up inside me. Is it because of this bat? But honestly, I have no idea what's going on anymore. But if I have this thing, I can do this." He said it to console himself. That's right, no matter where this was, he couldn't accept what he had been through in this short period of time. Whatever the origin of this bad is, why do I have to endure all of this? Because Kim Jong knew that now, none of it mattered anymore. His voice growled out each word. "At this very moment, I just need Kim Jong's determination sword. I'll crush every last one of them and survive." Kim Jong trembled, thinking to himself in astonishment. What is this bat? Kim Jong wondered to himself. I can feel the power surging through my body. Is this some kind of magic? A long bat radiated a brilliant mystical green light. The green spiritual energy from the bat began to writhe and coil around Kim Jong. He stared wide-eyed at the green light enveloping Cho. His hands, a giant spiritual entity with sharp teeth, appeared. Kim Jong's mouth fell open as he let out a huge scream. The giant, spiritual entity lunged forward with terrifying power. He broke out in a cold sweat, stunned by the sight before him. Kim Jong asked himself doubtfully, is it devouring those monsters right now? The giant spirit began to dissipate into the air. The green light from the spirit swirled violently, before retracting back towards Kim Jong. His face was filled with shock. As the bat returned to its normal state, he thought in shock, "It's back to being a normal bat again." Suddenly, Kim Jong clutched his chest and gritted his teeth. Enduring the pain from his heart, he collapsed to the ground in agony. Kim Jong wondered, what is this sudden pain? His eyes widened in shock as he felt something strange. Kim Jong looked down at the wound on his arm. He was stunned to realize The change wasn't just on his arm. Kim Jong gradually realized that, even the smallest scratches, he knelt on the ground observing. They had all healed in the blink of an eye. Kim Jong exclaimed in alarm, "What is this? I feel strangely stronger. Could this also be the power of the bat?" He confirmed in shock, "This bat is unbelievable. With this maybe I can actually survive here." Kim Jong's eyes widened with worry, but he knelt motionless, holding the bat with a confused expression. He grimaced and thought to himself, "I'm so hungry." He saw a patch of mushrooms. They were glowing with a strange green light. In the dark cave, Kim Jong stared at the mushrooms thoughtfully. He stroked his chin, pondering for a moment. Kim Jong contemplated the only way to solve his hunger. "Looks like mushrooms. This is probably the best I can do." He considered it for a moment. But mushrooms are dangerous. They could be poisonous. They're glowing way too much. Kim Jong was still hesitant. Damn it, in this situation, he decided to take the risk. "I'll just eat them." Kim Jong picked the mushrooms and stuffed them into his mouth. Better to die from poison than from starvation. He suddenly paused as he tasted them. Kim Jong exclaimed with joy in his mind, "It's delicious." This gamble was a huge success. He sat down to rest after he finished eating. "After regaining my strength, the truth is it wouldn't be surprising if I just dropped dead from sickness at any moment, but for now, eating is taken care of." Kim Jong commented on the water source. "Even though there are things that look like leeches in the water, at least it's drinkable." Even though he knew it was utterly disgusting, he reflected on his condition. "The truth is, if I were to drop dead from sickness at any moment, it wouldn't be surprising at all. But I can eat this too." Kim Jong slung the bat over his shoulder. "Maybe thanks to the bat's influence, I'm still safe and sound. Even this harsh survival in the cave has become more bearable somewhat, thanks to this mysterious power." He frowned, beginning to get used to the new environment. "Just as I started to adapt to life in this cave," Kim Jong realized with horror, "the monsters were constantly surrounding me, a reminder that this was no longer the world I once lived in." He described a creature with a strange exoskeleton. "These insects seem to live as parasites on the corpses of other creatures." Kim Jong noted their characteristics. Although they have hard shells, their weak points are very easy to attack. Taking them down isn't too difficult. Although it's all thanks to this bat. He recounted the strange phenomenon. "Every time I took down a monster, the club would devour its remains. I could feel a new change in my body, and when it returned to me, I would be healed and I became stronger than ever. I slowly regained my faith, and just like that, I began to adapt to this hell on earth. I was finding hope and confidence again. The hope that I could survive, until I ran into him hiding behind a rock. I saw the countless dangers lurking in this place, but the most dangerous one among them was definitely this guy. Luckily, he only wandered around the monster nest occasionally. It looked like he hadn't made any other moves yet. I've been stuck in this cave for a long time. Trying to avoid him, I felt so overwhelmed, but I couldn't find any way out. Finally, I came to a single conclusion. The exit. It was on the opposite side of the nest, where I'd started. I thought about the obstacle ahead. The problem is I have to cross that hell on earth. Even if I can deal with those bugs and monsters, can I really get past him?" He held a small doll in his hand. "No, even if I manage to escape, will I ever be able to return to my family?" Kim Jong pondered his bleak future. Could it be that I'll be trapped in this hell forever? He started to wonder, how did I even end up in this place to begin with? I must have fallen from somewhere. Then Kim Jong remembered a mysterious person from that time who had the same name as him. What the hell was he anyway? I remember he told me to find something. He squeezed his eyes shut in frustration. Kim Ji-young sat on the ground. "No, now is not the time to be thinking about this." He pulled himself together. "First I have to get out of here." Kim Jong took steady steps across the dark cave floor. He stood behind a rock observing the entrance. The cave was full of insect eggs, and purple insects were crawling all around. Kim Jong carefully looked around. He didn't see that giant thing anywhere. He breathed a sigh of relief. "Looks like I still have some luck left." Kim Jong looked towards the path. The bugs didn't seem to be agitated either. He smiled with determination. "I can do this." Kim Jong stepped on a piece of bone. and it shattered with a crack. He jumped startled by the noise he'd just made. He held his breath, breaking out in a cold sweat, terrified of being discovered. Kim Jang wondered to himself. Didn't he hear me? He trembled and crouched low. Damn it, I'm shaking like a leaf. Anyway, I made it safely to the other side. Annoyed, Kim Jong ran toward the exit. Get out of my way, you disgusting bugs. He was filled with hope, because I'm about to escape this place. Kim Jong stood still, looking at the cave entrance glowing with sunlight. He sighed listlessly. There are eggs plastered all over the walls here too. Kim Jong's heart sank. I can't see a way out. Is this a dead end? He stood alone in the middle of the cave, facing a beam of light from above. That light, it's definitely shining in from outside. Kim Jang began to wish, if only I could climb up there somehow. His legs trembled on the precarious ledge. Suddenly Kim Jong lost his balance. A moment later his face filled with terror. His instincts told him something was approaching from behind. Right behind him a giant insect with a pale, white body and sharp teeth was growling menacingly. Suddenly the monster's giant leg shot forward. Caught off guard, Kim Jong took the full force of the blow. He gritted his teeth through the pain, as his entire body was violently thrown backward. Pain, my breathing grew ragged. Damn it, where is this place? He carefully scanned his surroundings. So this is its nest. Right then the spider monster charged straight at him, opening its mouth wide without hesitation. Kim Jong watched in bewilderment as the spider monster slowly approached. Suddenly his eyes began to glow with power. Kim Jong coldly swung his baseball bat as the irritated spider monster raised its leg high. Step by step he moved closer. How do you like this? Kim Jong gripped the baseball bat tightly. A little different from the first time we met, huh? The enraged spider monster glared with dark eyes, and immediately opened its mouth wide. Kim Jong slid forward swiftly. I can see it. He nimbly dodged, his body flexibly avoiding the attack. I've always been confident in my ability to read movements, but at that moment, Kim Ji Hyang's eyes became incredibly strange. Now it's on a whole other level. He landed a decisive blow right on it. The spider monster shrieked in pain. A sound full of fury, its entire body staggered. Unable to stand steady, the spider monster's leg began to crack more and more. Kim Jan was secretly overjoyed. It's working, he silently told himself. I can win. The enraged spider demon opened its maw, full of sharp teeth. Kim Jong's face instantly went pale. What the hell? The entire cave began to shake violently. Swarms of smaller spider demons started crawling in. From all around, they were everywhere. Then they swarmed together behind the giant spider demon. Kim Jong stared blankly at the scene before him. This is just too much. He couldn't help but feel overwhelmed and anxious. Then Kim Jong got into his stance. Ready to strike, he decisively launched his attack on the swarm of small spider demons. Sweat started to bead on his forehead as he nimbly took them down. One by one, a spider demon lay crushed on the ground in agony. Kim Jong panted, his breathing growing heavy. He thought to himself, damn it. At this rate, Kim Jong slowly looked toward the others. Unwilling to accept it, he gritted his teeth. This is never going to end. Then the figure suddenly vanished. Kim Jong was stunned, not understanding what was happening. He took the full force of the spider demon's attack. Again Kim Jong grimaced in pain. The excited spider demon opened its sharp, toothed jaw wide. The pain inside him intensified dramatically. Kim Jong tightened his grip on the sharp iron rod in his hand. Then, without hesitation, he stabbed straight at the spider demon, severing its leg with one slash. The spider demon shrieked as its leg immediately tumbled to the ground. Drops of red dripped silently onto the cold ground. Kim Jong fell to his knees, struggling for each breath. His vision started to blur and swim. He looked at the spider demons before him. The wound was making him weaker and weaker. Kim Jong slowly looked down at his own hand. My vision is fading. Have I lost too much blood? The image of the spider demon blurred in his eyes. Kim Jan struggled to press his hand against the wound. He thought to himself, is this really my limit? His eyes slowly closed from exhaustion. I feel like I have absolutely no chance of winning. What more can I even do? What more do you people expect from me? A voice suddenly echoed in Kim Jong's subconscious. Fight. Kim Yena was staring intently at him. Never looking away, she tried to persuade him. Don't you dare think about giving up here. Kim Jang spoke in a daze, his voice full of confusion. Kim Yena how? Just then Kim Yena's voice cut in. Get up now, an aura suddenly enveloped her. Me and the master are waiting for you. Kim Yena's words echoed one by one. Get up and fight back. Then Kim Jong immediately turned his head. His hand instantly tightened its grip on the baseball bat. The swarm of small spiders lunged to attack. At that very moment the strange doll used its power. The small spider demon was thrown backward. It was as if Kim Jong had completely merged with that power. Now as for these bugs, he gripped his weapon tightly. Looking at them coldly, I'm disgusted by them. The spider demon was provoked. Once again Kim Jong stood there completely unafraid. In that instant the two of them clashed. He unleashed his power, rushing forward like a flash of light. Then he decisively swung hard at the spider demon. A cloud of smoke spread throughout the cave. It was obliterated on the spot. Kim Jong's entire body froze. The power within him gradually faded. The scene before his eyes suddenly became eerily desolate. He was completely stunned. What the hell? How did I get this strong? Kim Jong looked up at the exit and thought to himself. Finally his voice filled with hope. I'm finally getting out of here. Green smoke erupted fiercely from the bat again. Kim Jong's eyes widened as he saw the bat in his hand transform. A giant soul materialized and rushed toward the large monster. He was shocked and wondered, is it going to eat again? The green soul clamped down and tore the giant monster to shreds. Kim Jong gritted his teeth, enduring the pain. He thought to himself, no matter how many times I see this, I still can't get used to this sight. Kim Jong stood frozen, watching the light of the green soul fly upward. His eyes widened in horror as he felt a violent tremor. Kim Jong collapsed to the ground in agony. He clutched his chest horrified. My wounds. Kim Jong knelt on the ground, enduring it. It's great that they're healing, but it hurts like hell. I really can't get used to this pain. He pondered in silence. More importantly, this power, Kim Jong concluded to himself, that it's on a completely different level compared to when I absorbed the previous monsters. Does my power increase depending on the opponent? He felt anxious. I don't know what the future holds. But Kim Jong walked slowly, step by step, toward the brightly lit exit. He told himself, with this power, I'll definitely find a way. Kim Jong's eyes flew open in shock. This is, he exclaimed internally, a desert. Kim Jong reassured himself. A desert isn't ideal, but it's still much better than a damp cave. A long while later, he had collapsed onto the scorching sand. Kim Jong hung his head in despair. I was so wrong. He wandered aimlessly through the arid desert. This place is more desolate than I ever imagined. There's no food. He looked around, exhausted, and no water. Kim Jong recounted. The only things I've run into are walking skeletons. Monsters, huh? They don't even surprise me anymore, he admitted wearily after fighting so hard to survive. I'm just going to end up starving to death. Kim Jong lay on his back in the sand. I haven't seen a single soul. The only human-like things were these monsters. He wondered if humanity in this world had already gone extinct. A hope he held as his consciousness began to fade. I hope when I open my eyes again, this will all be just a dream. Suddenly someone's voice called out, oh look, there's someone over there. Kim Jong cracked his eyes open as he felt someone approaching. Asko Pierce quickly stopped Chloe. Chloe, don't get so close to him. That's reckless of you. The girl cheered with delight. He's alive. Chloe closed her eyes and muttered, oh, for heaven's sake. She grumbled, could you please stop crying? Kim Jong stammered emotionally, but he sobbed, explaining, you two are the first people I've met since I came to this place, and we can even understand each other's language. Chloe shuddered and cried out, ugh, that's so creepy. Asko Pierce calmly suggested, why don't we all calm down, haha, and talk for a bit while we rest? The girl turned and protested, what, we still have a long way to go, and you already want to rest? He explained gently, but he's happy to have met us. We can't just ignore him and leave. Besides, you were the one who ran over. All excited because he was still alive. Annoyed that he'd hit a nerve, Chloe fell silent. She had no choice but to agree. All right, Fine. I guess we have no other choice. Asko Pierce was very pleased. That's the right decision. The three of them gathered around the campfire, a pot of hot soup bubbling over the flames. Kim Jong's eyes widened in amazement. What in the world is this? He stared at the soup. How long has it been since the last time I saw real food. Chloe watched him with a weary expression. Geez, you look like you've been starving for days. He explained his situation. I haven't eaten anything for over 5 days. The girl shouted in alarm. What? How could you survive that long? A scorpion silently observed him with a thoughtful gaze. Well, I'm not really sure, but maybe it's because I'm absorbing the monsters. He spoke gravely. Absorbing them, that's definitely a type of magic I've never heard of before. Kim Jong asked in alarm. Magic? There's magic here, really? Chloe's eyes widened as she yelled. What? Where on earth did you come from? Kim Jong said, flustered. Where do I even begin to explain? Asko Pierce handed him a bowl of soup. Here, eat first, we'll listen to your story while you eat. The soup bowl was empty after Kim ate every last drop. Asko Pierce summarized the story. So you're from another world, and when you woke up you found yourself here, he theorized. And by defeating monsters with that blunt weapon, your body recovers and becomes stronger. He praised. That's truly a unique ability. Chloe wondered about the strange quiet. Now that you mention it, night has already fallen. Why are the zombies so quiet? Kim Jong smiled and replied, that's because, he admitted confidently. I've already taken care of all of them with this. The girl was stunned. What? Inside, Asko Pierce was also clearly surprised. The zombies in this place constantly revive at night, no matter how many times you destroy them, he observed thoughtfully, and yet, the zombies he claims to have absorbed aren't moving, even though it's dark. Could there be something special about that strange weapon? Asko Pierce's eyes flashed with a mysterious golden light. He hypothesized. Perhaps it's Kim Jong said shyly. Let me help clean up, okay? Chloe immediately refused. You don't have to. Asko Pierce expressed his gratitude. Thanks to you we can get a good night's sleep as well. He made an offer if you have nowhere else to go. Hey, why not travel with us? We'll also try to find a way to get you back to your own world. Chloe looked completely astonished. What, Asko? Asko Pierce smiled kindly. He stood by the fire looking at Kim Jong. Kim Jong stam ohak well, then broke into a radiant smile. I'd be honored. The girl held her soup bowl and sighed wearily. The next morning, Chloe used a knife to cut a piece of cactus. She put the cut cactus pieces into a leather pouch. Kim Jong exclaimed from behind her. Oh, so you can eat that? You really know your stuff, Chloe. Chloe closed her eyes, proud. Of course, this is just basic knowledge. If you want to cross this barren desert, she said with an annoyed tone. What are you looking at? As they walked, Kim Gyeon teased, you just remind me of my little sister. Chloe retorted sulkily, I'm not a little kid. The group started to bond, and so I joined Chloe and Asko on their journey. As we were walking I asked curiously, by the way, are those hands for real? The girl asked back in surprise. Wait, you don't have them in your world? Kim Hang answered, no, we don't. I also recognized my own progress. Throughout our journey together, I've learned so much about this world. I jotted down my journey's notes from Chloe, who introduced herself as a bestian. I learned the essential knowledge and common sense needed for survival. The girl then asked a question. What kind of races live there? Then the answer was simple. Only humans. What? That's so boring, Chloe exclaimed, disappointed. She then cheerfully called out Ares's name. Kim Jong continued his training with the middle-aged man named Ares. I began learning about monster behavior and combat techniques. Asclepius smiled. Welcome back. I told him about my companion's goal. They said they came here to defeat the monster leader. I brought food, Chloe announced cheerfully. He patted her head and praised her. Good job, I smiled, completely content. I'm so lucky. I noted my feelings even though I don't know much about the people who live in this world. The ones I've met are definitely good people. The night sky glittered with stars and a crescent moon. In my hand I held a small doll as I lay in my tent. Lost in thought, can't sleep. Asclepius's voice called out. He approached with a lantern. I sat up and admitted, yeah, I got a lot on my mind. Asclepius set the lantern down and asked. Homesick? He expressed his own interest. I'm quite curious myself. Asclepius shared his experience. I've lived in this world for a long time, but you're the first person I've met from another world that I've ever met. I smiled gently. Compared to this place, it's a pretty boring world, he said in a gentle voice. It must be a very peaceful world. Then I lowered my head, a relieved smile on my face. Looking up at the sky I contemplated, I suddenly realized just how peaceful the place I used to live really was. I turned to him and asked, "Sir, have you ever heard of baseball?" "Baseball?" Asclepius asked. Surprised, my resolve hardened. "I'll do anything if it means I can go home." The sky was beginning to brighten. Heralding a new day, a dinosaur roared, chasing after me and a terrified Chloe. I added a condition: anything, as long as it doesn't get me killed. At that moment, Chloe and I were trying to escape the monster's jaws. We ran for our lives, trying to keep our distance, when I suddenly stopped and said, "Go on, Chloe." Hearing my voice, she cried out in shock. "Jiang," because I had turned back to stand in her way. "Hurry up," I gritted my teeth, gripping the club in my hand, and then I swung decisively, hitting it in the face. The monster was stunned for a moment, but I kept my eyes on it warily. Suddenly the beast's foot stomped hard on the ground. Right after the ferocious beast sent me flying. The attack was agonizing. The next second, I was thrown into the distance. Chloe watched in horror in my direction. My body was now covered in wounds. I tried to endure the pain shooting through me, but right in front of my eyes were the monster's sharp teeth. My eyes widened in terror, because the monster was suddenly sliced in two. Its body parts fell to the ground. Asclepius had appeared just in time to save us. "Mr. Ares," he calmly sheathed his sword. "Are you all right?" At the same time, Chloe ran over, complaining, "What took you so long?" She quickly turned to me and asked, "Are you hurt anywhere?" I quickly reassured her, "I'm fine, it's just a few scratches." Suddenly my club flashed. A cloud of smoke shot out and absorbed the monster, shocking both Asclepius and Chloe. Then the smoke returned to me. It gently brushed over the wounds on my body, and then the smoke vanished along with my injuries. Chloe, incredibly excited, started asking me questions non-stop. "What was that just now? That was that the absorption ability you mentioned before?" As for me, I just gave a flustered reply, something like that. In contrast, Asclepios was carefully thinking it over. The corpse and its magic had vanished without a trace. He stared thoughtfully at the two of us. It looked like Asclepios had realized something. He suddenly called out to me, "Hey Jiang." Asclepios wore a serious expression as he made his request. "There's something I need you to do." Chloe turned to look at him, her face blank while I just stared back bewildered. After a moment of conversation, the girl screamed in disbelief, "Are you crazy?" Asclepius's expression remained calm, even as Chloe continued to question him. "What, you're telling him to go catch a lytra?" she said bluntly, stating her thoughts. "You might as well just tell him to go die." Chloe was furious, chiding him. "Why don't you just kill it yourself, like you originally planned?" He calmly replied, "Don't worry, Chloe. If he refuses, I won't force him." But she was still not satisfied with that answer. "Don't be ridiculous. Does that guy have any idea how powerful a lich is? Of course that fool can't possibly know." A voice suddenly cut Chloe off. "I'll test it out." The little girl turned towards him stunned. Kim Jong nonchalantly asked, "So what do I do first?" The sky was turning orange as sunset began. Kim Jong, happily eating a snack, asked Asclepius, while still chewing a confirmation. The air suddenly went still. Seeing this, Chloe mid-chew had to speak up. "What's with the sudden need for confirmation?" Hearing that, he reminded her of something. "Didn't you say that?" Jiang doesn't really understand his own abilities. That confused Kim Jang, who replied, "Yeah, that's right." Asclepius made a serious request. "Before we face the lich, I need to understand more about your abilities." He slowly explained the reason and the principles of how they operate. Furthermore, Asclepius got straight to the point. "Where do your limits lie?" Kim Jong understood these requests. "Sure thing, I'm curious about that myself." He stared at his weapon, wondering, just what kind of strange power does this staff even have? Quickly filled with energy, Kim Jong asked again, "All right, so what are we doing first?" But it seemed he was in for a disappointment. With a look of helpless resignation, Kim Jong sat still and asked blankly, "What is this?" Sitting beside him, Chloe excitedly answered, "It's to check your mana." Kim Jong was startled. "What? You mean I have mana?" Resting her cheek on her hand, the little girl replied helplessly, "Probably everyone has mana." Asclepius finally spoke up to clarify, "I'm just going to do a brief examination. We might discover the true nature of your strange weapon and your magic." But Kim Jong misunderstood and shouted, "Right here, right now." which made the man sigh in defeat. It's not like that. A moment later, Asko Pierce gently placed a hand on his shoulder. I'm just going to. He slowly released a stream of mana. Asko Pierce closed his eyes, concentrating his mind slowly entering Kim Jong's body. Asko Pierce's eyes shot open in astonishment. What in the world is this? A colossal source of mana directly confronted him. Asko Pierce couldn't resist its power at all. His hand was quickly pushed away. Asko Pierce stared at him stunned, not understanding what happened.
Kim Yang innocently asked.
Are we done then? Followed up excitedly. So how was it? Did you find anything out? Asko Pierce looked at his troubled hand, hiding his concern. Unfortunately, I couldn't see a thing. Hearing this, Kim Jong was a little disappointed. Oh really? I don't know, he said, looking at him pensively. This can hardly be considered simple mana. It feels like another living creature is residing inside his body. It seemed Asko Pierce had discovered a difficult problem. Just trying to sense his mana caused such a strong rejection. He silently recalled the scene from moments ago. This power is. Meanwhile, Kim Jan was happily chatting with Chloe. Can you use magic too, Chloe? The little girl replied coldly, no. Asko Pierce watched him, a sudden thought crossing his mind. He's too dangerous. A zombie slowly approached, an axe in its hand, and grinned sinisterly with its bony mouth. Suddenly it was hit square in the face. The zombie didn't have time to react. Before it was knocked flat, Kim Jong tossed a stone in his hand, thinking to himself, it's been quite a while since I ended up in this world. He estimated in his head he hadn't kept close track, but it had to have been over 3 months. Kim Jong looked at the zombie and wondered, how many monsters have I absorbed during that time? He glanced down at his hand, lost in thought. My body has now far surpassed the limits of a normal human. Suddenly a voice called Jong. Kim Jong turned his head slightly, but he was still lost in his thoughts. Just a moment ago, this place was filled with strange monsters, but now the adorable Chloe stood before him, holding a basket of potatoes. Come on, let's eat. Kim Jong told himself, I've been able to endure it all, thanks to having companions by my side. He put his empty bowl down, laughing heartily, rubbing his stomach. He said loudly, ah, that really hit the spot. Kim Ji Young praised her. Your cooking is amazing as always. The little girl crossed her arms confidently. This is just the basics. He seized the opportunity to ask, so are we having something good for dinner tonight too? Chloe kept it a secret. Just get ready to be amazed. Asko Pierce, who was nearby, listened to their playful banter. He thought to himself, he's really good with kids, and yet he skillfully passed all the cooking duties to her. As he was relaxing, Kim Jong heard Asko Pierce ask Jong, how was your progress with what I taught you? He thought about what he'd learned and confirmed. Oh, you mean the mana control thing? Kim Jong's expression immediately turned gloomy, as he answered honestly, it's not going as well as I thought. I can't feel anything at all. He added dejectedly, I guess I just don't have a talent for it. Asko Pierce had already come to a conclusion in his mind. I suspected I was asking too much, he thought to himself, but Jong didn't seem like the type with a talent for magic. As for Kim Jong, he was so bummed. I really thought I could be like Harry Potter. Asko Pierce looked at him, recognizing you're just like me. He encouraged him, don't be too discouraged. It seems you're gradually being influenced by mana. Kim Jong's spirits immediately lifted. Really, Asko Pierce added, if you keep trying you'll be able to control mana. Sooner or later, he eagerly pumped his fist, saying, anyway, even if I can't control mana, I've gotten a lot stronger, right? I'll be useful when we fight the lich or something, right? The girl's eyes immediately turned serious. He also fell silent for a moment. Kim Jong just sat there listening, completely clueless. You will not be fighting the lich directly. He listened intently. By normal standards, you could be considered quite strong, but Asko Pierce pointed directly to Kim Jong's current power level. You still haven't reached the level to confront the lich. He fell silent as the old man continued. Your only mission is to absorb the lich's corpse. After I defeat it, Kim Jong then rubbed the back of his neck and replied, yes, I understand. Asko Pierce explained to him, it's for your own safety, so don't worry about it too much. Then he stood up and said, we'll be there in a few days, so get some proper rest. Kim Jong replied obediently, I understand. Under the deep blue sky, the three of them continued on their journey. They fought together until nightfall, after which they took shelter in a small cave. During their break, Chloe watched Asclepius teach him. Then they would fight together until dark again, repeating the cycle day in and day out. The girl flopped onto the ground. Chloe whined tiredly, "I'm so exhausted." The old man walking ahead turned back to encourage her. "Just a little more effort," Asclepius said. "The entrance to the tomb is at the end of that canyon." Meanwhile, Kim Jong walked over, gently saying, "Here, give me your backpack, I'll carry it." Then he shouldered the bag for her. Full of energy, Kim Jong urged, "Let's go, Chloe." The girl's eyes widened as she looked at him and replied, "Okay." They came to a treacherous mountain path. Chloe looked up and asked, "Is this?" The old man spoke up, "Yes, it is." Kim Jong stared straight ahead. The three of them stood before a large stone gate. He realized it was the lich's tomb. Together they went inside. The inside was incredibly spacious. As Kim Jong walked, he remarked, "It's a lot cleaner in here than I expected." The girl beside him was on alert. "Why do I suddenly feel so anxious?" Asclepius, holding a lamp, warned them, "Stay on your guard. It wouldn't be surprising if something jumped out at us." "In a place like this," he said cheekily, "do you really think a ghost is gonna pop out?" Suddenly Kim Jong realized something. He spun around to look behind them. That's the classic line, "Right before something appears right behind my back." Sure enough, there was an undead right behind him. He grinned, "Gotcha." He went pale and jumped, letting out a scream. In his panic, Kim Jong slapped the undead. It only had time to gurgle that slap. Seeing the undead fall to the ground, he grumbled, "Geez, you scared the life out of me." They turned to leave. Chloe asked, "Wait a minute, can you really hit a ghost like that?" Kim Jong explained optimistically, "The important thing is the determination to smash them." But they didn't notice a nearby rat eavesdropping. As he walked, he asked, "By the way, Aries, this lich, what kind of being is it?" The old man thought for a moment. Then Asclepius began to answer, "The lich is the ruler of this land of death." In front of them was an undead creature, radiating a foul aura. His voice echoed, "He resurrects and controls the countless undead." In this place it suddenly woke up. While Asclepius was still explaining about the undead, if the lich resurrects and regains its full power, it will lead its army of the undead and destroy the world. It woke up, but before it could do anything, it was destroyed. He continued without stopping, "That's why we have to destroy him, before he can recover his strength." Asclepius said with suppressed anger, "However, yet, even if we defeat him, his magic will allow him to revive in another 100 years. Kim Jong, who was busy absorbing them, was suddenly mentioned. "It was then that I saw your ability." He added, "If you can absorb and erase the undead." Asclepius shared his theory. "Then, it's likely you can do the same thing to their master." Hearing this, he was stunned again. Kim Jong suddenly turned back. "So that's it, that probably won't be too difficult," he said as he walked on. "But will this staff work as we planned?" The other two watched Kim Jong from behind. "I mean, it doesn't absorb all monsters after all." He kept walking and rambling about the staff. "And I don't really understand its mechanics." Just then, the old man was shocked by what he saw up ahead. Kim Jong's voice still echoed in their ears. "But I'm sure it'll be fine, right?" The worried girl called out to Jong. Hearing her, he turned his head, about to ask why she wasn't coming closer. But before he could finish his sentence, Asclepius roared, "Get out of there, Jang, right now!" But by then, the ground beneath his feet was completely covered by a magic circle. Kim Jong looked at it, puzzled. "What the hell is this?" Then a flash of light enveloped him. By the time he and Chloe reached the spot, the girl was stunned, and Asclepius was just as shocked. He had simply vanished before their eyes. A dark figure dashed forward at top speed, thinking to itself, "I hope I'm not too late." The surrounding darkness then began to fade. Kim Jong lay unconscious in a dark place. A moment later he sat up, clutching his head and muttering irritably, "What the hell was that light?" Kim Jong looked around and wondered, "Where am I?" Suddenly, something caught his eye. Before Kim Jong was a colossal door. He stared at it and mumbled, "A door." As he looked at the magnificent gate, Kim Jong thought to himself, anyone who saw this would think there was definitely a lich behind that door. He turned back to grab his backpack, silently thinking, well, at least it wasn't a trap that chops off your limbs, or something. Meanwhile, Asclepius and Chloe were still staring intently at the empty space. In front of them, a single piece of bone lay on the ground. Asko Pierce stomped his foot hard. Bracing himself, he scooped the girl into his arms and took off at high speed. Caught off guard, Chloe yelped irritably. What's the big rush? What the hell just happened to Kim Jong? Asko Pierce gritted his teeth, his face taut with tension. He frowned, filled with self-reproach. Damn it, I let my guard down in a place like this. Hey, something like that can happen at any moment. Over on his side, Kim Jong was waiting patiently. Stay calm, just wait for Mr. Asko. A zombie was swiftly annihilated. Asko Pierce moved like a blur, destroying every monster he came across. The little girl scowled and demanded, I'm asking you what in the world is going on. He paid her no mind, his eyes fixed forward. But Asko Pierce still answered Chloe. What Jiang stepped on was a lich's teleportation. Magic circle. Hearing this, the girl asked where was he sent. He replied grimly, if I'm not mistaken. On the other side, the boy looked terrified, as if to prove Asko Pierce's guess correct. That must be the chamber where the lich is. Before, Kim Jong was a lich, sitting regally upon a throne. It had a strange demonic aura about it. He frowned worriedly, observing the lich's relaxed body. Kim Jong thought to himself, is that the lich? Is it sleeping? What a relief. Should be fine as long as I don't wake it. He turned his head, assessing the situation. I had a bad feeling, and sure enough, this isn't the outside of the door. Kim Jong looked left and right, and then concluded, but the inside. Learning from his previous mistake, he decided it would be too risky if he accidentally triggered another trap. It's best to stand still and wait. But suddenly Kim Jong's staff began to glow intensely. He was startled, confused by its strange behavior. Why is this happening all of a sudden? Nothing like this has ever happened before. And because of that light, the sleeping creature awoke. A purple light shot from the lich's eyes. Toward Kim Jong, he glanced back at it. As the lich's body slowly began to stir, it radiated an oppressive mur de roux aura. Kim Jong had now turned to face the lich, which held a weapon in its hand. Seeing this, he thought, to be faced with such transcendent power, Kim Jong thought he was a dead man for sure. Meanwhile, the two of them were rushing like the wind. Chloe suddenly paused. What was that sound? He had noticed the sound too. Asko Pierce said in a low voice, it's over, so it's woken up on the other side. He was so exhausted he collapsed onto the floor. Gritting his teeth, Kim Jong thought, this thing. He watched the lich display its power, and gasped internally, this is on a completely different level. It gathered a small orb of light in front of its chest. Kim Jong was terrified. The lich attacked him from above. Kim Jong got to his feet, but his heart sank in despair. There's no way I can dodge this. He gritted his teeth, his resolve hardening. In that case, Kim Jong took a defensive stance, gripping his staff tightly. I'll block it, and he actually used his staff to block the attack. Mustering every ounce of his strength, he swung his staff, clashing with the attack. From above, the lich observed it all.
A massive explosion erupted. Kim Jong was exhausted,
but still held his staff at the ready. His eyes were filled with determination. After the explosion, thick smoke and dust filled the air. The creature's gaze turned exceptionally serious. Kim Jong looked up at it and thought, you. He stared at the lich above him, and exclaimed internally, you possess such extraordinary power. Kim Jong tried to pinpoint its weak point. Is its core in that heart? Just then the lich twitched a single finger. Vines immediately shot up from the ground. They gradually wrapped around the arm holding his staff, then coiled around his legs, until finally Kim Jong's entire body was bound tightly. A cold glint flashed in its eyes. He trembled in fear, as the lich's voice echoed in his ear. Got you, it announced triumphantly now. Then the lich slowly advanced on Kim Jong. It reached out a hand towards him. I think I'll carve you up myself and see what's inside. Let's take our time and play. Kim Jong didn't dare to blink when he heard the words. Let's start carving. But just then, a sword pierced straight through his hand. He looked toward the sword's owner. Lich, also surprised, turned to look, and there he was, Asko Pierce, appearing in all his glory with his sword in hand. His eyes were fixed on the scene before him. A sharp, purple stream of magic suddenly tore through the air. The powerful impact of the attack sent Kim Jong flying. He sat down on the stone floor, a look of shock on his face. Asko Pierce worriedly asked if he was hurt anywhere. He spoke up, suggesting, get back. Lich stood opposite him, his purple eyes glowing brightly under the sharp helmet. Asclepius said firmly, "Let me handle this." Lich raised his scepter and unleashed a torrent of magic. It enveloped the entire surrounding area. He stood facing the downpour of purple magic arrows. They created a series of violent explosions on the ground. With great concern, Mr. Ares' lich in his black armor stared menacingly, his purple eyes glowing brightly from within the dense smoke. As Asclepius launched his attack, Lich was suddenly hit, causing his helmet to shake violently. Startled, he turned to look behind him. He glared at Asclepius with fury. Asco stood firm amidst the hazy dust and smoke. Lich unleashed his threatening magical power, which surrounded his body. He said with a hidden meaning, "The two of us." Lich continued his challenge. "Are both cruel villains, aren't we?" He placed his palms facing each other. Lich began to gather an immense source of magical energy. Between them, he then unleashed a colossal wave of purple magic. It engulfed the entire battlefield.
Kim Jong screamed in horror.
"What the hell is this?" Lich announced. "The end of the stars." A massive pillar of purple and white magic erupted, violently tearing space apart. His jaw dropped in terror as he witnessed that incredible power. Asclepius was thrown back by the tremendous energy. The magic exploded violently, creating a world-shaking cataclysm. Hazy dust and smoke spread everywhere. He knelt, planting his sword firmly to keep his balance. Asclepius panted, exhausted, his face drenched in sweat. Lich floated in midair, radiating a murderous aura. He looked down at the two of them in silence. Lich commented on his presence. "Normally you face me alone, but this time you've brought along a strange one." He looked disdainful. "Did you prepare a trump card to destroy me?" He brought his hands together. "But you're not the only one who came prepared." At his command, Lich created a beam of dark energy. Whisper of the void. Asclepius looked at his enemy with a tense expression. He stood alone in the mystical space and looked up. He stared in utter shock. Lich coldly declared, "This space is for you." Asclepius asked grimly, "Are you planning to duel me in here?" Lich nodded and said, "That's fine." But first he revealed his intention. "I plan to open the little gift you brought me, and see what's inside." Kim Jong shouted in confusion. "Where is this place?" Lich made a cryptic comment. "It seems you brought a dagger to pierce my heart, but that blade will eventually turn back and pierce you." Instead, Asclepius tried to move. "Damn it, I can't move at all." He realized internally, this seems to be some kind of mental magic, not reality. Asclepius looked into the void. "But it seems I can't escape this easily." He worriedly calculated. "Normally, I would slowly find a way to break it, but if I hesitate, Zhang's life will be in danger. Hang in there a little longer." Zhang. Lich extended an invitation. "Offer it up." Kim Jang stood motionless in the dark space. He spoke arrogantly, "Offer it to me, the ruler of all death and the terror of all life." Lich urged, "Offer everything to me now." He spoke with longing, "Your body and that power." And the colossal entity spoke smugly, "No, this vessel will be mine." Lich narrowed his eyes, staring intently. He spoke angrily, "You dare trespass in my domain without any fear." He couldn't believe his eyes. "What is this?" Asclepius stood in the vast hall, with a worried expression, sweat trickling down his cheek. He thought to himself, "The Lich is magic." Lich roared in fury. "You." He spoke exasperated. "See, what in the world did you bring here?" He stood in his black armor with soulless purple eyes. Asclepius seized the opportunity. "Now's my chance." Lich still hadn't understood what happened. He swung his sword, striking Lich's body and splitting it in two. His face showed determination, his eyes sharp. Lich spoke in confusion. "This is," he cried out in terror, "impossible." And just like that, Lich's body gradually vanished into the void. Asclepius suddenly realized he'd forgotten something. He immediately turned back and asked worriedly. Ian. Kim Jang asked in shock, What happened?" The baseball bat on the ground was emitting a brilliant blue light. A powerful surge of purple energy was swirling around. Both of them were being enveloped by streaks of giant purple light. Asclepius speculated in his mind, the Lich's magic. Kim Jong was completely enveloped by the purple magic. A sudden wave of pain hit him, causing his face to twist. "John," he cried out in alarm. A powerful surge of magical energy exploded, preventing him from getting closer. Asclepius couldn't help but feel uneasy. That's a colossal amount of magical energy. If he absorbs something like this, he rushed over Jean. Snap out of it, Asclepius thought. What's happening? Is this a side effect from absorbing the lich? A voice suddenly rang out. Sir Asclepius. He looked up, turning his gaze toward the source of the sound. His expression suddenly turned grim. It was a woman in high heels. She walked over to where John was lying unconscious. In his subconscious a voice spoke. Kim John, you must find Aeneas. Kim John gasped, waking from his stupor. He dazedly looked around, sitting on the ground with a blank expression, and his thoughts in a tangle. Kim John wondered aloud, Mr. Aries and Chloe too. He thought to himself, what is this? Where has everyone gone? A message from Asclepius read. Something extremely urgent came up, so we had to go on ahead. The lich was defeated thanks to you, Aries.
Kim Gyon Yanderet Alod.
I've never seen this kind of writing before, but how am I able to understand it? He felt a little hurt, but more importantly, right now have I been abandoned? While he was still unconscious, Asclepius was staring at the woman, with a pensive expression. He asked calmly, what brings you here? He said her name, Aquinas. Aquinas tilted her head slightly, offering a soft, mysterious smile. She spoke in a serious tone. Sir Asclepius, His Majesty, the Emperor has issued an immediate summons for you. Why so suddenly at a time like this? Aquinas replied sarcastically. It's been a long time coming, so why are you still acting so surprised? She stated nonchalantly, since when has His Majesty ever needed to ask for your opinion, or consent beforehand? Her words clearly displeased him. She continued, as for all the specific details, you'll find out once you return to the imperial palace. Aquinas explained calmly, in any case, it seems your business here is already concluded. From a distance Chloe called out loudly. Mr. Aries, hearing the little girl call him Asclepius, turned his head. Aquinas smiled softly. Her eyes half closed. Chloe expressed her concern. Will John be okay, and what about that lich? What? Suddenly Chloe's face stiffened, her eyes wide with shock. You, she gasped, then rushed over to John. John, wake up, she cried out in alarm. Asclepius immediately calmed her down. Stay calm, Chloe, he explained gently. It seems he's just temporarily passed out from the shock of absorbing the lich entity anyway. His life isn't in any danger, he added. Asclepius looked up at Aquinas, who was standing there. He narrowed his eyes thoughtfully. His mind was in turmoil. Even though I still have so many things to worry about, but he gave a serious order. Listen, Chloe, prepare some food and a map. Put them in a small bag and leave it for John. The young girl replied obediently. Yes, sir, I understand. Aquinas said nothing. She just stood silently watching the other three. She remained quiet, observing everything. Inwardly she was in disbelief. Did he really absorb a lich? Aquinas was inwardly amused. Well, now, she thought, pleased. Didn't I just happen to overhear a most interesting story? Asclepius urged them on. It's time for us to depart. Aquinas covered her mouth with her hand. Oh dear, this is a terrible habit of mine. Asclepius knelt to pick up a piece of paper from the ground. He then led Chloe away. Asclepius and Aquinas passed each other coldly. He said in a stern voice, I have a warning for you. You had better keep your distance, and stay away from that boy. He demanded coldly, if you still wish to live a long life. She was not in the least bit afraid. With that said, Asclepius stepped through the spatial gate and left. Chloe was still a bit reluctant to leave. Aquinas smiled smugly, as she stood before the swirling portal. Kim Gyon still lay unconscious on the ground. As she told herself, I will remember this. When everyone had gone through, the portal closed completely. Kim Jong's sad voice spoke up. How heartless, he deeply cherished them. Even though they hadn't been together for long, I really thought we had become as close as family.
Kim Yong shouted accusingly.
And yet you just abandoned me here. Was I the only one who was being sincere? This whole time he stared blankly upwards. Then he spoke with renewed optimism. Well, I'm sure they must have had an unavoidable reason for doing this. Kim Jan wondered to himself. Mr. Aries wrote that the lich was defeated thanks to me. But what did I actually do? He was filled with doubt. I don't feel any stronger at all. so I don't think I actually absorbed it. Kim Jong stood alone in the vast space, looking up with a dazed expression, as a thought flashed through his mind. If that's the case, maybe I should just pick up something else. To replace it, he boasted excitedly. I just defeated a giant worm. It's gotta drop some awesome gear, right? First item, hero grade. Cursed Elven Skull Orb. Next, Legend Grade Scepter of Agony and Despair. A whole series of items dropped. Unique Grade Demon Sword of the Vicious Scream. Legend Grade Ceremonial Bloody Dagger. Hero Grade War Hammer of the Horrifying Phantom. Kim Jong said hesitantly, "Nah, forget it. Feels like if I touch any of them, I'll get cursed instantly." A map and a compass lay on the ground, in the middle of the arid desert.
Kim Jong felt skeptical.
Just a map and a compass. He scratched his head in confusion. For a guy like me, who's only ever used map apps on his phone, this is way too hard. He squinted, focusing on the symbols on the map. If I cross the western forest, I'll find a village. He then complained out loud. Man, that's so far. In the end, I was all alone again. A skeleton appeared out of nowhere. Blocking Kim Jong's path, he swung his baseball bat, smashing it hard against the dry skull. He recounted the process, and so, a full 3 months have passed since I left Mr. Aries's group. I've been traveling alone through this wilderness. Kim Jong felt grateful inside. Thanks to the valuable knowledge I learned from Mr. Aries and Chloe, I've been able to make it this far without too much trouble. Although the journey has been really lonely, Kim Jong was filled with hope, and at last he felt a sense of relief. I finally escaped this desolate place. A lush green forest with dense canopies, under the gentle sunlight, appeared before Kim Jong. He was deeply moved. Fresh grass and green trees. This is the first time I've seen them in almost a year. Kim Jong slowly savored the scent. It smells so pleasant finally. A peaceful and beautiful scene. No more monsters or sandstorms. A large explosion erupted up ahead, causing Kim Jong to freeze in his tracks. He looked down dejected, is what I was about to say. A small puddle had formed on the ground. A moment later someone came running, hurriedly splashing through it, and panted with his mouth open as he ran. His mindset on one thing, damn it all. And his mind kept screaming why he hadn't run far. When an explosion sent him flying, he hit the ground hard, gritting his teeth in frustration, still wondering, how could something so horrible appear here, of all places? Seeing the furious wyvern appear before him, and was utterly terrified. Why is there a wyvern here? His face was pale with fear. It's really over, and glanced fearfully toward Robert. Even Robert, the strongest martial artist in our group, was killed before he could even touch it. A lowly bronze rank hunter like me, what could I possibly do? He saw the wyvern's terrifying eyes and ferocious attitude, and couldn't help but feel scared. We were only supposed to be here to clean up some weakling goblins. Just then the wyvern opened its mouth and let out a terrifying roar. Seeing this, and squeezed his eyes shut as fear washed over him. Is this really the end? Just in the nick of time, Anayosa appeared, striking the wyvern with a powerful blow. Hearing the sound, opened his eyes in astonishment, and the first thing he saw was Anayosa's sharp features. Reacting instinctively, and collapsed to the ground and shouted Anayosa's name. Hearing his panicked shout, the girl glared and turned back yelling, "Why are you still standing there like an idiot? Get up now," and tried to crawl forward, his mind still reeling in fear. "Why did you come back? I told you I'd be the bait so you could get away." Hearing that, Anayosa laughed. "You think I'd let you play the hero all by yourself?" Anne's face paled slightly after hearing that, and Iosa's lips were pressed tightly together, as if she were trying to hold something back. Then Anne resolutely walked over, alright, standing next to an IOSA, and turned and pressed, "You must have some kind of plan." Right, the girl just grinned and stressed. "If I had some brilliant plan, Robert wouldn't have died such a pointless death." And Iosa looked at the wyvern before them, and came up with an idea. "After I count to 3, everyone just run for it as fast as you can. Don't look back," and frowned and nodded. "I understand." And Yosa took a breath and began one. Before she could even get to 3, the girl was sent flying away like the wind, and just stood there stunned, not even comprehending what had just happened. He turned and saw the girl lying on the ground, and he screamed her name and IOSA. Before he could even shake off his shock, an arrow suddenly shot past him from behind. The arrow grazed past and flew straight toward the wyvern. A thought rose in Anne's mind. If even she came running here, and then he saw her, his thoughts screamed her name. Carries. After collecting herself for a moment,
Spoke hesitantly, I'm sorry.
and I couldn't just abandon everyone and run away by myself, and immediately shouted Carries. Get out of here now. He had barely finished speaking when the wyvern charged towards Carries. She looked up, her eyes wide with terror. No, please. Fear and confusion flooded her mind. Please, somebody. Seeing the wyvern's massive mouth open wide, Cerise stood frozen in place, her eyes welling with tears. Just as she was about to die, a sudden attack saved her life. Cerise and Anne both let out terrified screams. The attack had come from Kim Gyeon. He had appeared just in time to save the day. Once the danger had passed, Anne and Cerise bowed their heads in unison. Thank you so much. They bowed to express their gratitude to Kim Gyeon, who scratched his head awkwardly and replied, "It was nothing really." And quickly grabbed Kim Gyeon's hand and insisted, "No, it wasn't." He held on tightly and emphasized, "You're our savior. If you hadn't stepped in to help us, we all would have been goners by now. And thankfully an Iosa is still alive. Speaking of which," and suddenly realized, "the fact that you finished off that wyvern in a single blow is just unbelievable." He stared at the wyvern with suspicion. Could it be? And looking stunned pressed on, "You're actually a high-rank hunter, aren't you?" Kim Jong remained silent and stood there, his curiosity growing. "Are you maybe gold rank, or don't tell me you're platinum rank?" Seeing Kim Jong's lack of response, Carries and Anne fell silent, momentarily stunned. After a moment Kim Jong spoke up, looking puzzled. "What were those things you just said?" His genuinely clueless question left them both speechless. Kim Jong stood there and gave an incredibly awkward smile, and confused started to say, "So you're," and lifted Anyosa onto his back and started to leave. Before leaving he didn't forget to look back and ask, "Are you really from another world?" Kim Jong raised a hand and scratched his face, looking sheepish. "Yeah, it sounds pretty hard to believe, right?" An shook his head, resolute. "No. I'm sure the person who saved our lives would never lie to us." Saris then quickly added, "Even though I've never heard of such a thing, if teleportation magic exists, then this is probably possible too. It must be travel between dimensions, right?" Hearing that, and whispered, "Saris has a good point. Are you sure you don't need my help carrying that stuff?" "No, it's fine. How could I ask our savior to do something like that? Even, we don't fully understand every corner of this world." Kim Jong frowned, thinking to himself that a situation like his seemed to be quite rare here, and stopped short in his tracks. Well, I was actually in complete shock earlier." He frantically recounted what had just happened. Suddenly a strange monster appeared and devoured the wyvern's corpse. Right after that it turned into an iron pestle. It was radiating an insane amount of magical power. Anne's eyes widened with excitement, wondering if everyone from the world he lived in possessed special abilities like that. Kim Jong didn't answer, just walking over gloomily. He glanced at Anne and replied nonchalantly, "I guess so." Hearing this, Anne became incredibly excited. "Just as I predicted, this is amazing." Seeing his joyful reaction, Kim Jong thought to himself, "It's probably better to let them misunderstand than to go through a long-winded explanation." Just as he thought that, and cried out in amazement again, "Look, it seems we've finally arrived." His eyes widened and he looked around excitedly. This place is the territory, located in the far east, of the mystical kingdom of Lemanian, the city called Shuchok. Kim Jong's eyes welled up with tears and turned back, worried, and asked, "Is something wrong? Or is it that this place isn't what you imagined?" Kim Jong quickly wiped his tears and denied it. "No, that's not it. Of course not." Then he explained, "It's just that it's been so long. It's been so long since I've seen a bustling, lively crowd like this again." Not long after the two entered a tavern. Kim Jong greedily devoured a delicious piece of lamb, then chugged a large mug of beer in one go. He slammed the mug down with a look of pure bliss. Kim Jong looked at the food before him and thought, "To think that the first drink I'd have as an adult, I would be in a completely different world. Well, it's not like I've never had a sip before, but the alcohol in this world tastes somehow different." He rested his chin on his hand and looked away. "Their names are Anne and Cerise, right?" they said. They were going to check on their other comrades, and would be right back. Kim Jong recalled what Anne had told him. "We'll take care of treating Anyosa, and bring Robert's body to its final resting place." He asked again, Did you just say your party lost a comrade? Yes. On side then he gave Kim Jong some money and said, "It's not much but please rest at a nearby inn. We'll come find you soon." He immediately took it and said, thank you so much." Kim Jong looked at the pouch of money on the table, reassuring himself, "They'll probably come back after I get a little rest, right?" But more importantly, he looked around the inn and concluded, "I've really ended up in another world." All around him were tall men with long beards, and many waitresses wearing bunny ears.
Kim Jong was dejected.
So what should I even do first? Well, I guess I'll just get some sleep and figure it out. Later, a night passed quickly. He shot up in bed dazed. Took him a moment to clear his head. Kim Jong wiped drool from the corner of his mouth, and thought, how long has it been since I've slept in a Ariel bed? I totally overslept. Suddenly there was a knock at the door. He dragged his tired body over to open it. "Who is it?" he asked. As he opened the door, Saris and Anyosa suddenly appeared in front of him. Saris quickly asked, "Did you sleep well?" Jiang and Yosa stood with her arms crossed, staring at him without a word, while Saris looked at him with an excited expression. Kim Jong stared blankly at the two girls. Then he went downstairs with them, before he could even look down at the main hall, and was already waving enthusiastically and shouting, "Over here, Jong." He was as lively and cheerful as ever, and so the group gathered around a hot breakfast, and told Kim Jong that Anyosa had insisted on meeting him in person, to properly thank him. The little girl scowled and denied it. "That's not how I said it," and continued, "Things were too chaotic yesterday, so I didn't get to greet you properly."
Kim Jong replied magnanimously,
"Don't worry about it, thanks to you. I got a great night's sleep," and suddenly stood up formally. "Allow me to introduce myself properly. I am a bronze badge hunter of the party, known as the Wanderers." He turned to Anyosa and continued, "And this is Anyosa, a member of our party." The girl shyly bowed her head. "Thank you for yesterday," and then glanced over to the next person, and the only one holding the rear position in our party, Karis. After listening for a moment, Kim Ji-young asked quietly, looking confused by the way, "What exactly are hunters and badges?" At this almost prehistoric question, even Anyosa had to frown. What her reaction made him feel a bit embarrassed. Their reaction was, as if I just asked what 1 + 1 is. I remember Mr. Aries mentioning something about silver and gold, and stepped in to smooth things over. "My apologies. It seems you still don't know much about this place." Then he reluctantly began to explain bit by bit. First off, hunters are people who specialize in hunting monsters, goblins, or carrying out various other requests, and all of these jobs can only be done if you're a member of the Hunters Association. Hunters usually work in groups of at least 2, but a party of 4 is the most common. Badges indicate the rank given by the association to hunters. They start from steel, then go to bronze, silver, gold, platinum, and finally mithril. Parties are often formed by members of various ranks. The ranks vary, but since quests are assigned based on the lowest ranked member in a party, most people tend to form parties with people of their own rank. Hunters with steel and bronze badges mainly hunt wild beasts and small monsters. They also take on odd jobs everywhere. Silver rank hunters are seasoned experts who specialize in slaying monsters. Most people retire before they can even reach this rank. Gold rank are the elites, even at a major branch of the association. Finding 3 or 4 such parties would already be extremely lucky. From gold rank and above, they often act as leaders for silver rank parties, instead of forming all gold parties. As for platinum rank hunters, I'm not sure, but rumor has it there aren't even 20 of them in the entire association. I've never even met anyone of that rank in my entire life. And finally, there's the pure platinum mithril badge. It's rumored that, throughout the entire history of this continent, only 10 have ever existed, and even right now, there are only a mere 3 active hunters. With mithril badges, they're truly living legends. So that's how it is. Kim Jan thought as he took a spoonful of soup. This seems really serious. He reasoned that the badges weren't just for measuring strength, but also served as proof of identity and a mark of credibility. That's why lost hunter badges always fetch an extremely high price on the black market, of course. Impersonating a hunter is a very serious crime. To rank up your badge, you have to accept and complete countless quests, from the Hunters Association, and calmly explained the situation. Our party is currently bronze rank. It's nothing to be proud of, but it's enough to make a living. Kim Jong replied softly, I see. But inside he was thinking, my head's about to explode from all this information. Suddenly and glanced at him and said, speaking of which he listened with a start, and extended an invitation to Kim Jong. We'd be very happy if you, Mr. Jong, would join our party. Kim Jong asked in astonishment. Me, and sensing a possible misunderstanding, awkwardly waved his hands and clarified, we're not trying to force you at all. It's just that you seem new to this world, and you'll definitely need money, and an official identity plus. Our party happens to have an open spot right now. He took another spoonful of soup as he pondered. They have a point at least until I find a way back home. I need to learn how to adapt to this society. I'll need cash and information too. Suddenly Enyasa flared up and shouted. They said you're ridiculously strong. According to Anne and Carrie's, you took down a wyvern in a single blow. In that case, you'll never have to worry about dying on a mission. Abruptly a voice shot back at the young girl. That's a blatant lie, and Yosa whipped her head around. A young woman's hand slammed down on the table. You kill a wyvern in one hit it. The girl with curly blonde hair questioned loudly. You could at least come up with a lie. That's a little more believable, right? Kim Jong's expression turned cold when he saw her. Another new face here, and Yosa warned annoyed. Stop interrupting and get out of my sight. Mary sneered arrogantly at the young girl. Oh my, since when were pets allowed to and sit at the same table as humans? It's the noble specialist leader. Mary Chitilon Mary continued her mockery. The beast man is shedding fur all over the place. Make that beast eat on the floor where it belongs. And Yosa roared in fury at her. What did you just say? Ian quickly intervened. Calm down, and Yosa. Mary shifted her attention to Kim Jong, narrowing her eyes at him. She sized him up. I've never seen your face before. So you're the one who killed that wyvern, are you? He answered calmly. Yes. Mary asked Kim Jong suspiciously. So did you bring back any spoils? You could have made a huge amount of money from its corpse, and quickly spoke up over him about that. But Mary cut him off, clearing her throat. She then sneered at, and of course you don't have any, because it was a ridiculous lie from the very beginning. Kim Jan couldn't stand Mary's words any longer, and stood up to teach her a lesson. I was trying to let this go, but hey, everything has its limits. But she provoked him. So what if I feel like crossing that limit? Mary laughed loudly and challenged Kim Jong. Let's see what you can possibly do to stop me. The moment she finished speaking, his thread of patience snapped.
Kim Jong erupted in furia.
This short little brat is starting to get on my nerves. After being shamed for her looks, Mary snapped. Is that something a pathetic lowlife who crawled out of some unknown hovel would say? Not about to back down. Kim Jong raised his voice to challenge her. What a pathetic lowlife. As their argument heated up, a blonde-haired guy suddenly stepped in between them, and spoke. My sincerest apologies. Kim Jong stared at him in disbelief. As the man smiled warmly at him, Mary frowned, glaring at Brian with irritation. Hey Brian, who gave you permission to butt into our conversation? The character Brian, a noble human expert, replied with complete composure. My sincere apologies, my lady. However, I believe we are causing a disturbance. We should just return to our seats. Then he casually placed a hand on her shoulder. In a doting voice he said, all right, now let's go get something to eat. Kim Jong immediately snapped hey, while Mary angrily warned, get your hands off me now. Unable to stand it any longer, he raised his voice and demanded, hey, we were still talking. Who do you think you are, daring to interfere? In an instant Brian's expression turned cold. He clenched his teeth, his eyes filled with killing intent. As he looked at Kim Jong, we should just end things here. Understood. He was stunned for a moment, the corner of his mouth twitching. He let out a sigh seriously. Kim Jong glared at Brian, his expression full of disgust. You two are really starting to piss me off. After he said that, the entire room suddenly fell silent. His resentful eyes were locked on Brian, while Brian, in turn, looked down on Kim Jong with contempt. Just then Aaron appeared, and gently tugged on his pants, to diffuse the situation. Now why is everyone making the atmosphere so tense? She gently chided. And you too, Brian. That's quite enough then, she pointed out bluntly. Mary was the one at fault from the beginning. Hearing this, Brian lost his patience and sighed. The perceptive Aaron turned to look at Kim Jong, startling him a little. Aaron, a noble dwarf expert, explained in a frank tone. Besides, we really do owe you an apology. The thing is, the story about you taking down a wyvern with a single blow is a little hard to believe. Right away, I suppose that's why she was so impolite. I hope you can forgive her. As soon as she finished speaking, the room fell silent once more. Stunned, Kim Jong looked down. The smallest person here is actually the most mature one. He thought, I guess I'll just let it go. Meanwhile, she was still sulkily scolding Brian. I told you to go stop them, and yet so why are you the one arguing with him now? He thought for a moment, then glanced around to observe the situation, and caught his eye and gave a slight laugh, while Ceres looked on with worry. After thinking it over, Kim Jong pretended to scratch his head and spoke up. All right, I don't want to cause any more trouble, so please just take her and go. Hearing this, Aaron looked grateful. Thank you so much for your understanding. But when she saw Mary's mocking expression, she turned purple with rage and urged Brian, can you please get her out of here now, before she really causes a huge scene? Ceres tried to comfort him with a smile. Mr. Jong, you've shown great restraint. Miss Mary's bark is worse than her bite. Her heart is in the right place. Maybe so. Having calmed down a bit, Kim Jong spoke up anyway. He turned to An and Yosa and asked directly, if I really want to become a hunter, what is the first step I need to take? His eyes showed his determination. A moment later, and placed a badge in his hand and explained, cheerfully, you just need to pay the registration fee. He stared at the badge in his hand, frozen. So in the end it all comes down to money, huh? He asked hesitantly, but do you have any money? The money I gave you before probably isn't much left. Hearing this, Kim Jong got a bit flustered. I think my companions also gave me a little something. As he spoke, he turned his money pouch upside down. Only a single gold coin fell out. Kim Jong stammered, only one coin, but and looked delighted. Isn't that a gold coin? He enthusiastically explained. 1 gold coin is worth 1,000 crowns. Each type of coin has a set exchange rate. He immediately perked up. This is enough to pay for it, right? And nodded, pleased. Of course, the registration fee is only 500 crowns. Kim Jong's face froze over again. Half a gold coin. The air then fell into a deep silence, and suddenly spoke up to break it. Well, until you've finished the registration, or your hunter's license, will take our leave for now. Kim Jong was a bit surprised. You're all leaving right now? He could only say with some regret. There are still many things to arrange before we can begin the subjugation mission. You should also take some time to rest and prepare.
Thoroughly, Mr. Young.
Then he said his goodbyes. Let's meet back here in 3 days, all right? Kim Jong couldn't help but be surprised. I have to wait a whole 3 days, and smiled, let out a sigh, and continued to explain the inn you're staying at is managed by the Hunters Association, and added that most of the people who come here are hunters, so this would be a good chance for you to get acquainted with them. Then he pointed to the quest board, saying that if you got too bored, you could try your hand at a few small requests. Finally, he left with Ceres and Aniosa. After 3 days, if you still haven't found a team or a place to go, you should join us. Of course, even if you don't join our party, we'll still do that subjugation quest together. Upon hearing this, Kim Jong's face lit up. I'll think about your offer very carefully, and waved and called back. Just stay put here, don't go too far, all right? Karis, in a warm voice, said goodbye and see you later. He waved back at them, don't you worry. Kim Jong watched their figures disappear before letting out a sigh. Relieved, he thought to himself, what a chaotic morning. Then he looked at the badge in his hand, bewildered. To sum it up, this tiny thing is worth 500 crowns. Kim Jan was lost in a tangled mess of thoughts. The bread and soup I had this morning only cost 3 crowns per person. And then there was the cost of alcohol, meat, and the room from yesterday. That adds up to 25 crowns. He was horrified when he realized, so this gold coin is equivalent to 20 days of living expenses, including food and lodging. How many eights could this money buy? At that thought, Kim Jong dazedly slammed his head on the table and wailed, I really miss home. Is there really not a single baseball player in this place? A life of luxury was right within my grasp. His tears flowed like a river, a truly tragic sight, and now he had to go back to worrying about every single coin. Kim Jong's gaze suddenly shifted toward the quest board. A subjugation request, huh? Maybe I should start preparing. A little while later he appeared in a decent outfit, carrying a baseball bat as his weapon. The shopkeeper showered him with praise. "My goodness, that outfit looks absolutely perfect on you, sir." She maintained her cheerful demeanor and said, "The total comes to 230 crowns, sir. I mean, my dear regular Jack." When Kim Jong heard the price, his face turned pale. "So expensive." The shopkeeper, having made a sale, was beaming. "Please come again." Soon he left the store muttering non-stop, "Good thing I was worried about the money, and didn't even look at the plate armor." Kim Jong looked around the bustling street for a moment. "Okay, what's next?" He pondered. "What should I do first?" He furrowed his brow and thought, "I don't have much money left. Maybe I should try accepting a quest." In the end, he decided to go to the manager. Kim Jong slammed his hand on the counter, put on his most handsome face, winked at the manager and said, "I'd like to sign up for a request." She explained cheerfully, "You just registered today. These quests require a bronze badge to accept, so for now you can't take them. The quests for the steel badge tier start from this side." Kim Jae nodded in understanding. "I get it, as planned." He got a quest, but reality turned out to be ironic. "And so, my long-awaited first quest was to haul sacks of flour." Kim Jong toiled all day cleaning stables, and after that he had to kneel by the river and wash piles of other people's dirty clothes. The more he thought about it, the more bitter he felt. "You call this being a hunter? This is clearly just the work of an errand boy." After working all day, sunset fell. Kim Guyung dragged his exhausted body through the streets. He couldn't help but sigh in frustration. "All I did today was heavy labor. There's no sense of accomplishment in being this kind of hunter." He then looked at the meager amount of money in his hand and groaned, "The pay I got after all that hard work is a mere 30 crowns. This is literally living hand to mouth, just earning enough to eat." His initial excitement had now turned haggard. No matter where you are, life is tough. Suddenly, the cry of a nearby vendor caught Kim Jong's attention. "Come and enjoy a delicious treat before you leave." The stall was selling fragrant meat skewers. He stared at the food, his mouth watering, and thought, "I guess one skewer wouldn't hurt. After all, I worked hard today." Kim Jong decided to buy it. The mysterious meat skewer price, 3 crowns from the very first bite. He was astonished. Incredible. A dish from a strange world, but it could captivate the taste buds of a modern person like me who's so used to fast food. "What the heck is this? The food here is bizarrely delicious. I wonder what their cooking secret is." Kim Jong was so engrossed in his food that he didn't notice Ariel approaching from behind, a compass in her hand pointing right at him. Ariel observed him carefully, while Kim Jong was still enthusiastically enjoying his food. "One more skewer, please." She suddenly moved closer, tugged on his shirt and said in a cheerful voice, "I found you." Kim Jong looked down at the petite elf mage before him. Ariel beamed and declared, "My fated one, Kim Jae-hyung." His mind a complete mess, spoke up, "So you're saying I'm the so-called fated hero you're looking for?" Ariel admitted without hesitation, "That's right." Kim Jong was a little skeptical. "So what's your proof?" Before he could finish, she impatiently cut him off. "It's the prophecy from my master." With that, Ariel placed the compass on the table. "Whoever this compass points to model, that person is the savior who will rescue this world, and my mission is to support that hero. That is the prophecy my master left for me." Kim Jong immediately shot back, "Prophecy? How can I possibly believe in something so vague?" But she replied with absolute certainty, "I for one have absolute faith, because my master is the famous prophet witch, Dennis." Hearing this, he hesitated a bit. "That tennis witch or something." Ariel corrected him, "Dennis." Kim Jong was a little curious. "She's a mage, so is she really that famous?" Her gaze sharpened. "What my master foretells has never been wrong, not even by a hair." Ariel recalled Dennis's words, as she suddenly complained, "My shoulder, I think it's about to rain." She said it with conviction, and sure enough, it really did rain that day. Hearing this, he was at a loss for words. "No way, I just think she's old and weak, so her bones ache when the weather's about to change. That's all." Ariel was so enraged. She shot up and slammed the table. "How insolent! Take back what you just said right now." Kim Jong calmly replied, "All right. I'm sorry, I take it back." "Is that good enough for you?" he asked, annoyed. "So what if I really am this destined hero?" She looked him straight in the eye and answered, "My master instructed me to aid the chosen hero. No matter what you plan to do, My magic will undoubtedly be a powerful asset to you. With a look of disbelief, Kim Jang said loudly, "Then do you even know what I plan to do next?" Ariel couldn't hide her surprise. "What, aren't you going to save the world?" He flatly denied it, not a chance. Kim Jong didn't hide the resolve in his voice. "My one and only goal is to find a way back to my own world." She stood there stunned for a moment. "Your original world with that?" He stood up. "I don't care who you are or who your master is, or what the hell this hero title you're talking about is," Kim Jong stated plainly. "And I have absolutely no intention of saving this world, because I have a ton of reasons. I need to get back home, the sooner the better." He slowly walked away. "So go find someone else. I don't know who you're looking for," but he finally left the stunned Ariel with one firm statement, "It's not me." At this time Mary was upstairs, understanding the whole situation. She sighed, "Oh, for heaven's sake." No one knew what Ariel had gone through. Not long ago Dennis had instructed her, "Take this. This magical item will guide you to your destiny." Ariel froze hearing her master's last words. "Go now, Ariel." Dennis's voice was still so incredibly gentle. As she said her goodbyes, "Go forth and meet your destiny." But even after finding Kim Jong, she couldn't believe this was how things had turned out. Right now he was still working hard to earn money. An old woman praised him profusely. "Jang, you're working so hard again today. Aren't you watching from afar?" Ariel couldn't help but wonder, what does this guy do all day? Why do I only ever see him doing menial jobs like this? The old woman on the other side said enthusiastically, "You did a wonderful job, so here's a little extra for you."
Kim Jong replied enthusiastically,
"Thank you so much, ma'am." Seeing this she wondered, could he be so broke that he doesn't have any money? Then she became deeply disappointed. "Oh master, could this person really be the destiny you spoke of?" Ariel racked her brain. "What on earth am I supposed to do now?" Suddenly she heard Kim Jong's voice call out, "You're still following me all the way out here?" Wiping the sweat from his brow, he asked, puzzled, "You've been tailing me all day long." Feeling a bit sorry for her, Kim Jong advised, "Just stop now. Go on and go back to your master or whoever." He avoided Ariel's gaze. "Because I'm not the legendary hero you're talking about." Her voice suddenly grew cold. "My master," Ariel replied, not hiding anything. "She has passed away." Kim Jong felt a pang of guilt. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bring up something painful." After a moment of thought, she asked again, "You really want to return to your old world, don't you?" Finally, she made a decision. "I'll help you," she said with absolute certainty. "Whether it's returning home, or cleaning out stables." Ariel looked him straight in the eye and declared, "I will support you in everything." The next morning at the guild, and was carefully putting on his armor. He was all set for this expedition. Cyrus's voice called out loudly, and she looked around anxiously. "I can't find Jang anywhere, and it seems he's not in the waiting room either." Ian was also a little surprised. "Really, that sounds strange." Just then Mary swaggered over. "It's obvious that guy tucked his tail and ran, isn't it?" Cyrus went quiet after hearing this. "A Mary, always dressed so flamboyantly," she said in a mocking tone. "After all that big talk about taking down a wyvern in one hit, he probably got scared he'd be exposed and took off." And exclaimed in surprise, "Mary," she asked tentatively, "with all that armor you're wearing, what are you doing here?" Mary confidently swept her hair back. "Don't you guys know anything yet?" She then unleashed a torrent of words. "Recently there's been a lot of intel, indicating that strange monsters, not from the Chinchok region, have been appearing in dense numbers around here." She crossed her arms and jutted her chin towards En's team. "That's why our noble team of experts has personally taken on the task of patrolling this vicinity." Mary continued to brag, "And we're also performing duties, like watching over and protecting the rookie hunters, who are short-staffed, for instance." Hearing this, he spoke with disgust. "You can look down on me or Ceres. That's fine, I'll let it go. But please don't insult Jang anymore." Veronica, a white-haired member of the business tribe, and the noble expert team, spoke up curiously. "Jang, who's that?" Brian replied. "You weren't there at the time, so you didn't see. He's the one who..." Before he could finish explaining, Sarah shouted angrily, "That's right. Jang is the one who saved our lives. If you continue with that disrespectful attitude, we won't let it slide." Mary immediately burst out laughing in response. "The last time I saw him, Your savior seemed more like he was busy on a date. She froze on the spot. A date? She let out a long sigh and confirmed yeah, with some elf girl. Then they were talking to each other about destiny. This fate that she said, using a teasing tone to provoke Ceres. It was so obvious. The two of them were lost in their passionate love, that they completely forgot their promise to you all. Her eyes immediately became terrifying, as she stared daggers at Mary. That's a complete lie. This scared the girl so much her face turned pale. Karis replied like a lost soul. Zhang said he came from another world, and didn't know anyone but us. And then just like that, he gets a girlfriend in just 3 days. Even lies have to be believable. My patience has its limits. Just as Mary was trembling, Kim Jong appeared. That's right, who said I was running away. She immediately turned around. Brian observed with a stone-cold face. While N was a little surprised, Kim Jong stood radiantly before everyone, with Ariel shyly hiding behind him. Peeking out to look around, he excitedly raised his hand in greeting. Long time no see everyone, and shot up to her feet overjoyed. Young Kim Jong had a bright smile on his face. He spoke calmly. I made it just in time, right? Mary pointed a finger furious. You disgusting traitor. Ariel and Kim Jong remained silent. Mary snapped. We promised we'd form a team together. Yet you went and secretly joined someone else. Ugh, she yelled furiously. You're a shameless traitor. He asked in return, why are you getting involved in this?
Kim Jong calmly explained.
This was entirely voluntary. No one was forced, so it has nothing to do with us. Even so, this situation is truly beyond my expectations. He exclaimed in amazement. A female elf mage. This is the first time in my life I've seen an elf with my own eyes. And asked curiously, what chance brought you two together? Kim Jong scratched his head flustered. Well, that's a bit complicated to explain. Ariel spoke up for him. I was the one who sought him out. She continued to explain. The thread of fate guided me to him, and asked again, stunned. What did you just say? Therese quietly observed everything. Brian sat in deep thought, while the others argued behind them. Kim Jong shouted in a panic. Hey, don't use such misleading words. Brian thought to himself. This place is about to become the center of a romance story, and asked hesitantly. So then what's your name? Ariel's beautiful face was listening intently to the question. She replied gently, my name is Ariel. He asked excitedly, Ariel, are you planning to join this expedition too? She affirmed with confidence. Of course, I have no interest in anything other than helping Zhang. That's why I went and got my hunter's emblem yesterday. He nodded in agreement. I see. As Brian took a sip of water, he thought, isn't this the model of a gentle and devoted wife? Veronica said in awe. What pure love, and nervously announced. And Yosa sent a message saying he can't make it, because his wounds haven't fully healed. In reality, having more people join will make us feel much more secure. Kim Jong said apologetically. I'm really sorry. I should have discussed this with everyone first, and smiled reassuringly. It's no problem, she said excitedly. Anyway, since everyone's here, let's get going. Shall we? Kim Jong urged everyone on. Let's move out. He began to describe the goblins. They are small, crude creatures with the intelligence of a child, and aggressive nature, and they use primitive tools. A goblin holding a knife attacks. Their main goal is to attack human settlements, to plunder resources and livestock. The goblin swarm was enthusiastically plundering. They were once single individuals and not too dangerous, but they're a nuisance, because they tend to move in hordes. And said seriously, lately reports of goblins harassing small villages along the Sushak border have been increasing. The last time, while we were searching for their lair, my team was attacked by a wyvern, and that's when we met Zhang. Kim Jong nodded and said, I see. He quickly pushed the thought aside for now. Kim Jong wondered why those people kept following us, and then calmly explained, ever since the wyvern incident, the monsters around Shuchok seem to be increasing at an unusual rate, so they're coming along to investigate this strangeness, and to protect us too. Mary winked smugly. You should be honored. Arrogantly declared, we ourselves have deigned to protect lowly, steel-rank hunters like you. Kim Jin sighed in exasperation. Isn't there a single normal person in your group? And admitted thoughtfully, I understand your frustration after that first meeting, but contrary to their appearance, The noble expert party is actually quite famous. He continued, even though they were only formed 2 years ago, they've already reached silver rank. After just 1 short year, they've continuously achieved brilliant feats, and are now the most promising candidates for the fastest promotion to gold rank in history. Kim Jong looked at them in surprise. Those people, Mary asked nosily. Is she really an elf? Where are you from, huh? Brian quickly stopped her. My lady, please stop bothering her and come over here, and gave a strained laugh there. Quite an odd bunch, Kim Gyeon muttered in annoyance. One of these days, I swear, I'm gonna knock some sense into that arrogant brat's head on. Spoke gently. Before that happens, there are a few things I need to confirm. He assigned roles seriously. John, since you use a heavy weapon, you'll be on the front line. He continued, organizing carries, and Miss Ariel will provide support from the rear. And still wanted to know, Miss Ariel, what kind of magic do you usually use? She asked back blankly. What are you asking? He scratched his head in confusion, and replied with a laugh. Was that question too hard to understand? And patiently explained, I'm not an expert on magic, but I've heard it's divided into several main schools.
Destruction, encens, alchimie.
Summoning, necromancy. As far as I know, there are many different types of magic. He continued to elaborate. For example, Miss Veronica over there is very skilled in enhancement magic. Most mages only specialize in one field, so knowing what it is will help us form a better strategy. And explained awkwardly, this is actually the first time I've had the chance to work with a mage. Usually mages are silver rank or higher, and even at that level, it's rare to come across 1 or 2.
Ariel spoke calmly.
I was wondering what all the fuss was about. That's only natural. Suddenly, an arrow flew from out of nowhere right in front of her. It grazed past her face, leaving Ariel too stunned to react. Quick as a flash, Kim Jong reached out and caught the arrow to protect his teammate, and looked in alarm towards the direction the arrow came from. Sarah's also looked worried, not understanding what was happening. She asked in shock, since when were they here? Kim Jong's sharp eyes scanned for the enemy. Brian stepped forward to shield Mary. A goblin ambush. Suddenly, Mary stepped in front and stopped him. We don't need to get involved, Brian, she said coldly. Mary stated firmly, just let them handle this themselves. After all, they're all hunters. Aren't they? A goblin charged, its mouth open in a ferocious scream. A powerful blow imbued with blue magical energy slammed right into its face. Kim Jong's expression was full of determination. As he struck, he scanned the battlefield. Goblins lay collapsed on the grass, bleeding from their wounds. Another lay motionless. With 2 arrows I stuck deep in its head and neck. Kim Jong glanced over the chaotic battlefield. He said with satisfaction, these guys weren't much of a threat, huh? And added enthusiastically, great job, John. Your skills are truly exceptional. Karis spoke with concern, but this is strange. Why would goblins actively ambush fully armed hunters? And gave his assessment. That's right. Normally goblins only target those who look weak, like children or the elderly. They even aimed for Miss Ariel, a mage, right from the start, whether it was on purpose or not. He said seriously, either way, we need to find their den and wipe them out completely. On continued to warn, there's a high probability that there are more of them than just this. Kim Jong scratched his head in frustration. We should have kept one alive for questioning. For now, let's head deeper inside. And Cerise. Both had expressions of pure shock on their faces, as they stared at something together. He asked curiously, anyway, what does a den of these things even look like? He wondered aloud. No. More importantly, are they even capable of communication? Kim Gyeon still didn't understand what was going on. He said impatiently, what is it? Is something wrong? Ariel stopped short and spoke in alarm. In fact, what does the colony even look like? She added, no. I mean, are we even able to communicate with them in the first place? Kim Jong was baffled by what Ariel said. He asked again impatiently, what is it? What's going on? Just then, and shouted a warning. John, behind you. Kim Jong nonchalantly and slowly turned his head. A monster launched a sneak attack, swiping its claws at him with lightning speed. Before Kim Jong could do anything, Mary instantly charged forward. Seeing the monster dodge her attack, she puffed out her cheeks in annoyance. The whole thing left both him and gaping in shock. Kim Jong called out, Mary, Suddenly Brian put a hand on his shoulder and said, "Please step back." He stepped forward confidently. "Leave this to us." The young man fell silent, not daring to argue. In an instant, Brian's gaze turned even colder. He assessed the situation. A rock troll appearing this close to our domain. Brian warned in a low voice, "My lady, it seems something is truly wrong." Mary sternly reminded everyone, absolutely no one is to let their guard down. She emphasized gravely, "This enemy is definitely not going to be a pushover." After a moment of hesitation, Kim Gang announced, "We will join the fight with you," and immediately stopped him. "There's no need," he added. "At a time like this we would only get in their way." Fearing he'd be misunderstood and gently placated him. "Of course we all know how incredibly strong you are, Gang," he explained, "but the esteemed experts party are seasoned veterans. There's a high chance we would only disrupt their seamless coordination. Finally, and advised so for this situation, let's just put our faith in them." Convinced, he stood still at the back. Ariel, off to the side, couldn't help but sigh at the sight. Brian silently gave the order. "Veronica, boost their morale now." Veronica closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and pointed towards her teammates up front. Then she shouted, "Boost fighting spirit," and exclaimed in astonishment, "What? She can buff all three of them at the same time." The monster also sensed that something was amiss. It immediately crouched and leaped into the air, leaving a crater in the ground. Roaring, it charged straight towards Mary. She took a ready stance, her brow furrowed. She watched the monster's every move. It attacked with its claws, and she quickly blocked with her shield. But the immense force made Mary grit her teeth and struggle to hold her ground. The monster pressed its attack from the side. Erin narrowed her eyes, took aim and decisively fired an arrow at the creature. Brian also rushed forward into the fray. The arrow struck true, piercing one of the monster's eyes. The creature stopped its attack, roaring in pain. Seizing the opportunity, he shouted, "Milady." Mary instantly understood Brian's intent. She used her shield as a springboard, launching him high into the air. She watched Brian's ascent with complete trust. He gripped his sword tightly, preparing to strike suddenly. From high above, Brian twisted in midair, aiming precisely for the monster's remaining eye. With both eyes injured, it clutched its face, howling in agony. Kim Gang couldn't help but gasp in admiration. "That's absolutely incredible," he remarked in amazement. "Every member coordinates so perfectly. It's like they're one single entity." Kim Gang thought to himself, "So this is a true party. They must have trained together hundreds of times." After his midair spin, Brian landed right beside Mary. Brian said with disappointment, "Even though we've blinded it, the wounds are still too shallow." He assessed with a troll's regenerative abilities. "It'll heal in the blink of an eye. For people like us who lack attack magic, this is the worst possible matchup." Mary chimed in, "If that's the case, then we'll aim straight for its heart, the source of its regeneration." Miss Veronica, prepare yourself. The esteemed experts party was known as a formidable team, famous for their effective coordination and stable formations. However, they possessed one fatal weakness: a lack of raw, destructive power was their greatest drawback. Erin's crossbow took a long time to reload, making it difficult to deal significant damage to giant monsters. Brian, who fought beside Mary on the front lines, used a pair of short swords, making him unsuitable for fighting large creatures. And Veronica, the team's only mage, possessed no spells other than enhancement magic, so one could hardly expect any offensive power from her. Mary, the leader of the vanguard, used a special weapon called a lance. However, as this type of lance was designed for cavalry, too much of its weight was distributed towards the back. When wielded by infantry with limited mobility, it was very difficult to bring out its true power. Nevertheless, the esteemed experts party compensated for this shortcoming in a very unique way. That method was to focus all enhancement magic to its absolute limit onto a single person. Veronica furrowed her brow and slowly chanted the spell, "Enhance physical strength." She targeted each body part, then shouted, "Enhance movement speed." Enhance endurance. Finally, Veronica growled. Enhance weapon power thanks to this series of buffs. Mary, a heavy infantry warrior, gained explosive power and speed for a short period. In the end, she achieved a speed that far surpassed even a true cavalryman. Kim Yena's jaw dropped in amazement. Ariel watched her every move, not even blinking once, and it was for that very reason that Mary had been given the nickname Golden Unicorn by the Hunters Guild. The monster had just finished healing its eyes, when before it could react, the lance pierced straight through it. Mary smirked in satisfaction. The faces of Kim, Gang and N were masks of utter shock. The wound was a gaping hole in the monster's body. She laughed with excitement. See, a troll is nothing when it faces me. How's that for our party? Suddenly Mary's body reacted violently. Her face went pale. He cried out in alarm. Miss Mary. Brian rushed over. Concerned, milady. Mary coughed up a mouthful of red fluid. He scolded loudly. I warned you that this method, I would put too much strain on your body. She retorted stubbornly. A noble must always set an example for others. This little injury is nothing. Mary continued weakly. For now, we should return and get reinforcements. Suddenly an arrow flew out and buried itself in her right shoulder. He couldn't react in time. Mary stared in shock at the arrow protruding from her chest. Mary's leg buckled and she collapsed to one knee. Her face was pale and contorted in pain. She was now facing a horde of monsters, lurking in the darkness of the forest. The next second they began to emerge slowly, radiating a thick killing intent. Brian's eyes widened in disbelief. What the hell is going on here? At some point a horde of monsters, of all shapes and sizes, had surrounded them, and his jaw dropped. Where did all these monsters come from? And at that moment Mary suddenly screamed Veronica. Startled Veronica immediately replied, yes, I'm here. Mary then spoke in the calmest voice she could muster. You need to hurry and get them, along with Aaron, out of this area now. Gritting her teeth, Mary broke off the end of the wooden stake, impaled in her body. I'll stay here to hold them off and buy some more time. As soon as she finished, Aaron was the first to speak up. Lady Mary. Brian, standing nearby, also called out worriedly. Despite the murderous intent from the monsters, Mary remained calm and reassured Brian. I know exactly what you're about to say right now. Then she firmly gripped her weapon. But please don't try to stop me. This is the responsibility of a noble. With a pale face, Mary forced a smile. Holding her weapon with both hands, she struggled to her feet. Now is the time for me to fulfill the noble duty of my lineage. Hearing this, Brian could only grit his teeth and watch with a worried gaze. At that moment, a voice that was both familiar and strange was suddenly heard ringing in her ear. Said, well, that sounds a bit dramatic and heroic, doesn't it? The owner of that voice slowly walked toward Mary. But you're not allowed to just ignore me like that. Kim Jong furrowed his brow with a serious expression. Do you really think I'm the kind of person who would run away and abandon his comrades at his appearance? Both Mary and Brian looked over in surprise. Ariel silently observed him from under her wide-brimmed hat nearby. Sarah's wore a dazed expression, as if she still didn't understand what was happening. Mary, now annoyed, said, don't be so stubborn. Just hurry up and leave. You must have seen the battle just now. I'm sure of it. Kim Ji-young listened to her words with a calm expression. Besides, with a crude weapon like that, you can't possibly take down a single troll. While they were talking, the red demons kept their eyes glued on them. Even if you get lucky and kill one, you can't fight the whole horde. As soon as Mary finished speaking, he raised an eyebrow, glanced away, and spoke arrogantly. I see, compared to the enemies I've faced with Ares, this bunch doesn't look like much. She yelled in frustration. Stop talking such nonsense. Just go quickly, we really don't have any more time to. Before she could finish, Mary suddenly fell silent, sensing imminent danger right behind her. She spun around in alarm. Oh no. In that perilous moment, Kim Jong lunged in front of Mary, as quick as a flash. With just one powerful swing of his baseball bat, he blew away one side of the large red demon. The whole thing happened in just a few seconds. It made Mary's eyes widen in astonishment. And not just hers. Brian's expression was just as priceless. After losing a part of its body, That red demon immediately let out a pained roar. Just then Kim Jae-hyang spoke up cheerfully.
Hey, você a Zoned Hunter.
He asked with a bright smile. What's our next plan? Kim Jae-hyang didn't forget to add. See, everyone else is waiting for your decision too. Startled back to her senses, Mary turned to look at her comrades behind her, and solemnly vowed, we will absolutely fight by your side. Aaron added with a grin, what kind of team member would abandon their leader? At a time like this, Veronica also gave her a resolute look, taking in all of her comrades' emotions. Mary couldn't help but feel a surge of emotion. She finally understood, and she turned away with a gentle smile on her lips. A few seconds later Mary slowly opened her eyes again, faced the monsters and began giving orders. Brian and Saras, you two focus on taking out the goblins first. There are too many trolls, so we'll have to deal with them one by one. Mary continued, much to Kim Jong's obvious pride. While Jong here takes them on one-on-one, the rest of us will run interference on the others. Then Ariel suddenly tapped her staff, cutting Mary off. Hold on. She calmly stepped forward and offered, just leave this to me. A surprised Kim Jong turned his head and asked, you really have a plan? From under the wide-brimmed hat that hid half her face, Ariel gave a mysterious smile. Without answering, she suddenly turned towards Anne. And earlier you asked me what my specialty in magic was, right? Without waiting for a reply, Ariel continued on her own. The truth is I don't have a single specialty. Her turquoise eyes suddenly began to glow. Ariel confidently declared, because there isn't a single type of magic in this world that I can't use. Right after she held out a hand. Mana boost. To Veronica's amazement, Ariel continued to cast another spell. Focus. Her feet then slowly left the ground. Elemental attribute enhancement. Ariel pointed her staff forward, and a massive stream of energy immediately coiled around it. She opened her eyes and uttered the name. Rage of the Fire Dragon. A massive, ferocious flame engulfed the monsters, big and small. In that moment all they could do was stare wide-eyed. The flame closed in quickly, erupting fiercely into a vortex right in front of them. It swept away the flesh and bodies of every monster. In just a few seconds, witnessing that spectacle, Ariel watched the entire process with a cold expression. Right after the fire swept the monsters clean, quickly subsided, Ariel slowly landed on the ground in front of Kim Jong, who was still completely stunned. She stood silently with her back to him, her red hair swaying gently. Then Ariel suddenly turned her head, looked at him and said with a bright smile, and just like that the problem is solved. As soon as she finished speaking, everyone present instinctively fell silent. For a moment the strange silence passed. Mary suddenly let out a weak laugh. I really can't believe my eyes. Her entire body suddenly collapsed forward. This is just too absurd. Mary lay face down on the ground in front of everyone. In her daze, she could still hear her comrades' shocked screams, for Lady Mary. But Mary's eyes grew heavy, her vision blurring. Mary now lay still on the bed, her face pale. This is a truly potent poison, the physician calmly explained bit by bit. It appears to be a rare type of toxin, one that's rarely seen around these parts. However, it seemed even this doctor was at a loss. I've already done everything in my power to treat her. However, if we don't find an antidote quickly, it will be very difficult to save her. After hearing this, Brian sat there stunned and whispered, so that's what's happening. At the same time, Kim Jong was outside speaking with worry. I wonder if Mary will be able to pull through. Ariel also looked down thoughtfully, staring into space. There's something I don't get. I thought that since she's a noble, she'd be treated in some luxurious mansion. Why is a lady like her in a shabby inn like this? Aaron overheard them and spoke up. That was before, but not anymore. Kim Jong, unable to hide his shock, cried out what he questioned her relentlessly. What do you mean by that? Why did you say she's not a noble anymore? But I've clearly seen Brian call her lady, and follow her around to serve her. Aaron's eyes slowly glanced behind her. It's true that Mary comes from a noble family. She didn't deny what Kim Jong said, nor the fact that Brian is her close attendant. That's also completely correct. Inside the sick room at that moment, Brian sat silently by the bed. Aaron's voice seemed to echo from far away, but all of that is now in the distant past. Flashing back to the past, A much younger Brian stared out from inside a cage. Guards stood watch nearby, a crimson flag fluttering gently in the wind. In the cart filled with shabbily dressed people, a scarred man silently observed his surroundings. Then he casually started a conversation. "Hey kid, what crime did you commit to get thrown in here?" But the young Brian didn't say a word. Seeing this, the scarred man lost interest in talking. "Fine, if you don't want to talk. That's fine by me either way. All of us prisoners of war are heading for the gallows. What does the charge even matter now?" Outside, the sound of footsteps mingled with the clop of horses. A bored soldier complained to his colleague. "Honestly, they should just execute these criminals on the spot. Wouldn't that make things easier?" He seemed incredibly annoyed with the people inside. "It's such a pain in the ass having to escort them." The soldier next to him replied, "What can you do? We have to at least follow basic procedures." He continued chatting idly with the other man. "I doubt anyone in this group has actually committed a crime serious enough for hanging. There's just no time for trials, so they round everyone up and deal with them all at once." The first soldier was about to reply, when he was cut short. "That's why you have to," as an arrow pierced straight through his neck. From inside the cart, Brian clearly heard the other man's panicked shout. "Ambush!" A new flag appeared high above, bearing the symbol of roses. Knights in green cloaks appeared, and among them was one man with a completely different aura. A short while later, the battle was over. Victory belonged completely to the knights in green. A soldier suddenly ran up to report. "My lord," he asked their leader, "what should we do with these prisoners?" Another soldier spoke up, offering his opinion. "Father, they're all criminals. I think we should just execute them right here." Hearing that, the prisoners began to tremble in fear. Suddenly, a pair of boots appeared in their line of sight. Brian calmly lifted his head to look at Riley, who had now taken off his helmet. "What exactly are your crimes?" Seeing his chance, the scarred man hurriedly spoke up in a fawning voice. "But my lord, we're just small fries, sir. We're just a bunch of guys who scavenge from this battlefield, dead to make a living, that's all." But what awaited the man was the cold flash of a sword. Riley's eyes glinted menacingly as he looked down. Another prisoner watched the scene terrified. The scarred man's head rolled gently to a stop near Brian. But strangely, the boy showed no emotion at the sight. Riley looked at Brian and remarked, "You don't have a shred of life in you, like a candle that has already burned out." Riley suddenly asked him a question. "Do you have nothing left to live for?" He pressed on despite the lack of an answer. "What is your crime? Tell me." Suddenly, the look in Brian's eyes shifted. For the first time, he opened his mouth to speak to someone. "If you're going to kill me, just do it quickly." Brian calmly speculated on the man's actions. "Or are you afraid to strike down a nameless child without a reason?" Riley remained calm in the face of his insolent words. However, someone else couldn't keep their composure. "Why, you little brat, how dare you be so insolent?" But suddenly Riley let out a laugh. He praised the boy with great interest. "This kid's got some nerve." His eyes showed genuine interest. "I'm starting to take an interest in you." With just a few words, Riley decided Brian's fate. "You seem like a suitable gift for my youngest daughter." He then turned around and ordered, "Put this man in the carriage immediately." All of this put the other person in a difficult position. Father Brian suddenly reconsidered everything. "So from now on I have to live as a slave. My life is truly in absolute tatters." Not long after that, in the bathroom, he soaked in the tub, lost in thought. Even at this moment, Brian still found it hard to understand. What the hell is going on here?